showing up a little bit later, I guess. Isaac Brown, ask yourself. But basically, we wanted to challenge TJump on his views about naturalism and about mind physicalism. So, Tom, do you want to start out by describing your view of philosophy of mind, please?
It's material. Mind and brain are the same. Physicalism, same as the consensus in every academic field.
Okay. Do you have a view on mind-body dualism?
That is wrong. That's kind of the point of physicalism, that dualism and idealism are incorrect.
So, well, what's going on? Yeah, youth, you can get on. Yeah. Okay, so that's a little bit of a surprising for a lot of our audiences because no, that wasn't expected. But yeah, so the question is, how do you deal with the problems that arise with materialism, like the rule following argument against it or the Jackson knowledge argument? What are your responses?
Arguments aren't evidence in the first place, so that methodology of coming up with arguments to try and diffuse a position is not evidence of anything, first of all. Secondly, the arguments don't work. So those would be the main two. The first is that one, arguments aren't evidence in the first place, so you're never going to convince anybody by arguments. You'd need some way to independently verify that the conclusion you've come to via the arguments is true, independent of your imagination. So arguments themselves don't do that. So you'd need something beyond just the arguments. The arguments are a valid way to come to a hypothesis, but then you need to independently verify the hypothesis or you have nothing. So the arguments themselves are nothing. You would need a new methodology to demonstrate their truth in reality. Because there's lots of very valid, strong arguments that have been applied that have just been wrong, like the argument against Einstein that space and time can't bend, therefore Einstein's general relativity is wrong. Nobody cares. The argument against infinite regress from theists, nobody cares in physics. Arguments just don't matter in the first place because they're all they are is here is what you imagine the case to be. They don't tell you anything about reality whatsoever. You would need to then demonstrate that your imagined description of reality actually applies to reality. And so the arguments themselves don't do that. You need some independent way to verify that. Otherwise, they're not evidence of anything.
Okay. And can we get a response to the Jackson knowledge argument?
What
And
could you outlay it? What is it?
it's basically known as the Mary's room argument, and the idea of where qualia, for example, can be said to be different from. We got Josh in here.
Yeah, I know. So Mary's room argument, it's a confusion between the map and the territory fallacy. It's saying that our description of consciousness isn't itself consciousness, which like obviously. So the most of the idealist arguments fall into the category of being a map in the territory fallacy of assuming that our descriptions of physics can actually give us consciousness, the qualia experience itself, which the only thing like an idealist would accept as redness is literally the conscious experience. Like there's no description of redness that counts as redness because redness, like by definition, is itself conscious experience. So the only way to describe redness is with conscious experience because they are definitionally the same. And so any description of the thing that it is will never be sufficient to actually get you the consciousness. And so it's just a basic map in the territory fallacy. Obviously, if you're drawing a map, the map will never be the same as the territory. And so obviously our descriptions of consciousness will never give you consciousness. And so there's no actual problem here. That's why, again, no one really takes this seriously in neurology, cognitive science, philosophy of mind. It's not really an interesting argument.
Okay, so youth resist. Do you want to jump in, or should I? Youth? Okay, you don't. Okay, so here's the objection that has been posed to you in the past that we are not sure you've addressed. And the objection is basically your view seems to entail some form of epiphenomenalism.
I don't really have much of a position on like what exactly consciousness is. I just kind of go with that's Dan Dennett's position. Here it is. It's an interesting position. There are other ones. I don't really take a strong position on which view on materialism.
Okay, but would you say that?
What about Dan Dennett's view?
I just list it as an option. So like as a counter argument to many theist positions, I don't actually adopt any of the strong materialist positions. I don't know which one is right. I don't really care.
But do you see why, for example, the objections we've raised to you in the past, which is that the view seems to be one, the problem of epiphenomenalism, and secondly, if it is assumed, I presume that you're going to say that the laws of the universe are deterministic. That's going to also entail some kind of lack of free will. which would entail some kind of a lack of agency, which is again a problem for the non-physicalist. So what's your response to those
Well,
objections?
no. So again, if you define agency as some kind of ability to do otherwise, then yeah, that's impossible. But physicalists just don't define it that way. We define agency as your deterministic brain acting without external influence.
Oh, Detroyer's final here. All right, Detroyer, we're grilling TJump. You showed up just on time. So basically, TJump, yeah, Detroyer is.
I know who Detroyer is. I've talked to him before.
Yeah, you've debated him. So, so we simply don't think you've given us this response to the objections we've given you, and the objection is basically that agency is to be distinct from a mechanism, right? It seems like you don't believe that human beings and their function is in any way distinct from a mechanism. By the way, guys, this is an open conversation. Anyone can jump in.
There's two problems there. One is that it can't be distinct from a mechanism. Either the only option is that it is itself a mechanism. So there's three possibilities.
How are you an agent?
Either one agency is determined, one agency is random, or some combination, or some third ontology, which is its own mechanism. So agency cannot, like logically, it cannot be independent of a mechanism. There has to be something there. Either it's a physical thing, a supernatural soul thing, or some combination of those in randomness. So it's always going to be determined by a mechanism. You can't get away from that. It can't just be an independent thing that exists in the universe that isn't itself a mechanism.
Okay. But do you understand that an agent is one who's influenced by beliefs and desires? And on your view, beliefs and desires seem to be a corollary of some sort of physical process that happens in the brain.
Right. So your definition of agent has no bearing on reality. That's just your opinion, which has no one cares about. So the definition of agent in science has nothing to do with that. So it's irrelevant.
And if you're not an agent, how can you even know what's relevant and irrelevant?
Knowledge doesn't require agency in the sense that
knowledge doesn't require agency.
No, like you can be determined to know something and still know.
Wait, stop. Just a second. Knowledge is a subcategory of belief. Are you saying beliefs, non-agents can have beliefs?
Correct. You can have beliefs without being agents. You can be determined to have beliefs, and those beliefs can be justified beliefs, and those beliefs can be true. Therefore, those beliefs can be knowledge.
Do you understand that for beliefs, this is the objection that we raised to you last time, that beliefs are a normative claim. So only
no, they're not. Beliefs are literally just a physical thing in the brain, or a supernatural thing in the brain. They're not. It's not normative. Has nothing to do with it.
But do you believe? Yeah, Jarl, you can jump in at this. Anyone can. It's an open conversation. I'm just leading into here. So, if you believe that non-agents can have beliefs and desires, then I don't understand what separation you draw between agency and mechanism.
I told you agency is a mechanism. Even if there is a free will, it's still a mechanism. So I said there isn't a distinction there. Like anything that exists is going to be a mechanism. God, if exists, would be a mechanism.
Yeah, that's a view that we used to. Michael, anyone can jump in. That's a view that we actually originally raised an objection to because, as it seems like the question basically is, would you define beliefs? Yeah, James, you can be unmuted. Yeah, you can just jump in. Anyone can, as long as they're not Charles. So, would you believe? Yeah, anyone can, Benz. So basically, this is the objection that we raised to you last time. Which is that would you agree that beliefs are commitments of some sort, and commitments require some sort of self-corrective behavior?
No, none of that that's all gibberish. So beliefs are literally a position. So you hold a position. You have a conviction towards something. That's it. That's a belief. There's no normative aspect to it. There's no how you got this belief is irrelevant. It's literally just you have a conviction, and that's your belief. It's nothing more. The origin of the belief is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it came about by a determined process as randomness. If it was an evil demon put it in your brain, it's still a belief. It doesn't matter if you could change it or not. It's still a belief. You could be like only like a 10 neuron brain or something. You have one belief and you literally don't have the cognitive ability to change or analyze the belief at all. You still have the belief. Beliefs do not require any of that junk that you just added in.
Okay, so then that brings us to the original objection, right? An agent is someone whose actions are influenced by beliefs and desires. But on the mechanistic view, beliefs and desires are just an emergent property of some mechanistic functions, which again renders
yeah. So that definition of agent is wrong. Like no,
how do you define
that's a colloquial definition. So agency, it's just a neurological process acting without external forces. So agency is essentially your brain acting in the way that it is essentially evolved to act.
So would you describe a calculator as an agent?
With consciousness. So it has to have consciousness. And then if it had consciousness, yes, I would define it as an agent.
So consciousness is the only thing that defines an agent?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, what's your definition of consciousness? Let's lay it out.
Qualia direct experience.
Okay. So would you define any living thing that has qualia, like for example,
Yes.
seeing color as an agent?
A color?
So for example, on your view, would cockroaches be agents?
Probably.
So cockroaches are agents even though they have absolutely no freedom to even understand what they're choosing.
Yeah, agency is, again, I just define it as consciousness. You have consciousness, you're an agent.
Who are any prominent philosophers who define it that way other than you?
No idea. This is how I define it. You asked me how I define it.
Okay, but don't you think that it would be important to kind of have that view supported at all?
No, depends on the context of the conversation. So if you're asking like a moral question, what is a moral agent? Moral agency would be defined differently, not just simply as consciousness, because it requires consciousness and some cognitive ability to assess the status of an action. And so they wouldn't define a cockroach as a moral agent, but if you're defining it simply in the philosophy of mind sense of it has a mind and is able to make decisions, then it is an agent in that sense, and pretty much everyone would agree with that. So I think you're conflating agent in the sense that it has a brain and can make decisions versus agent that's a moral agent. If you're conflating those two definitions of agent, then that would cause a problem. But everyone's going to agree with my definition of agent as it has a brain and can make decisions.
Yeah, but traditionally, agency has been understood as distinct from a mechanism, right? Yeah.
No, that's so only if you talk about agency in the context of moral agency, which moral agency is irrelevant to the origin of the agency. The constitution of the agency is irrelevant to the definition in moral agency. It doesn't matter how it was made. So if you're equivocating that use of agency, which obviously requires more than just having a brain, with the thing that it requires a brain kind of agency, then yes, those are different definitions of agency. In moral philosophy, the term agency refers to a brain that can make choices that are morally relevant. But that is, again, irrelevant to what it's made of. There's no definition of what it's made of in that context. It just has the ability to do things, and how it does those things, whether it's determined by physical neurons, and that's how the beliefs are the neurons firing, essentially, and those neurons firing can affect the other neurons firing to make it cause to decisions. That is still a agent in the sense that it is affected by beliefs, but those beliefs are literally just brain states. So the brain states, which we call a belief, we label that brain state a belief, can affect the other brain states to cause it to do actions. And so that agent can be affected by the beliefs, because in the definition of agency in the philosophy of mind, it doesn't tell you anything about ontology. It's just telling you that there are these features, and anything that can accomplish those features build an agent. So if the ability to be affected by beliefs is purely materialistic and determined by physical forces, that's still the ability to be affected by beliefs. It's just the beliefs are this set of neurons, and the effect is over here on this set of neurons. So that would still qualify as an agent in the materialism by the definition of agent in moral philosophy.
So the question has always been that desires, for example, require some sort of normativity, right? And you
No,
challenge
like
that.
what?
Yeah. So what's the argument? What's your argument against it?
A desire, again, you could have a evil demon who places a desire in you, or you give an electrode shock that places a desire in you. Like, there's no normativity there. It's just a reactive state of your brain. Like,
I suppose that.
Yeah, B3, you can go ahead. Anyone can, if they're not Charles.
if they're not Charles, who's Charles?
Which one's Charles?
He said trolls.
Oh, trolls. Gotcha.
Trolls. Yeah, Detroyer, do you want to clarify something before Jack gets here, or Isaac? Those two are actually coming in.
Are you recording this already, or?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, Detroyer, do you have an objection with what Tom thinks?
Yes, I am recording it, if you asked.
Some of what he said I agree with. I mean, I'm an identity theorist about mind anyway, so there's going to be some overlap there.
Okay, don't you have an objection to him saying that it's not a normative claim for desires and beliefs are not normative?
Well, some intentional states are going to be normative in the sense that, well, you have a certain commitment to yourself, right? some desires might be like that. Certainly some other intentional states like promises, commitments of various sorts are going to involve at least internal lots. So that's going to be normative in some sense.
Sure, yeah, you define those as subjectively normative. You have a desire to fulfill this thing, but beliefs themselves don't require, like all beliefs obviously don't require normativity. Like a belief could just be a brain state caused by an electrode. The electrode obviously has no normativity to it.
Right. So
Yeah.
another objection we raised that you kind of in the beginning you kind of glossed over was the Jackson knowledge argument, which you're saying that it confuses map for a place. What does that mean?
So if you say, like, when you want to describe consciousness, like redness, the experience of redness, redness literally is a conscious experience. There's no other way to describe it. You can't like write down redness in any way that produces a conscious like experience. It doesn't work that way, because then it would literally be its own conscious experience. So there's no way to describe consciousness itself that actually produces the consciousness itself. You're just like, any words or description of consciousness are never going to be the consciousness itself, just like any drawing of a location will never be the location itself. So if you define a location like that mountain or whatever, well, that mountain, the only way to describe that mountain is to have that mountain. Well, obviously nothing I paint about it or draw about it or tell you about the physical constants will ever give you the mountain. It's just a descriptive term to represent the mountain. So if your definition of the mountain entails some property that only exists in the mountain itself, well, then obviously no description I could ever present will give you what you qualify as mountain. You'll say, oh, that description isn't even close. It doesn't even have this property that is intrinsically only in the mountain. Well, obviously. So if you require...
I have a question.
Sure, go for it.
I'll come
Oh, well, if you're not done,
Well, yeah, that's essentially it. Like, if you define consciousness as literally the conscious experience itself, then no description can give you that. But I don't. Like, consciousness is a result of some physical force, and we can give descriptions of those just fine.
Detroyer, you have a follow-up on that, or are you bringing a new topic in?
To follow up on that.
Go ahead then.
So I think
where's the link? Where's the universal
physicalist.
link for the?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you here. I DM'd you, but
DM'd, okay.
Here. Did you got it?
Yes.
Just
Putting it in my chat box. All right.
I just put it in the chat box so people. Yeah, this is open room as long as people aren't trolls. And we want to stay on topic because we want to like raise objections that we originally raised. To. Go ahead, Detroyer. Yeah, continue.
The idea on the physicalist view is that, I mean, look, there's in principle a way to completely describe the world. Sorry, one second. In physical terms, right? And it sounds like what you're saying is that there's some things that you couldn't do, so like you couldn't write it all down. You couldn't give a complete description of the world.
Yeah, we grant that. So like you can't describe the ontology of matter either. So like nothing in physics tells you what energy fundamentally is. There's no way, like no matter in principle how much we learn about physics, we'll never be able to like write ontology of energy as an equation. It's not a thing. We just, whatever it's made of is what it's made of. You can't represent that with mathematical equations. You can only represent its interactions with other stuff, the relation between them. So
it shows the limits of science there.
Well, no, it's descriptive. So
like
whether or not our language can describe everything in reality doesn't mean that everything in reality is in our language. So you're confusing the language with the reality. Like reality can be purely physical, just all physical stuff, even if our physics, that is just our language, can or cannot describe parts of it.
Forget our physics, right? It sounds like you're trying to make it an epistemic problem, which it's not supposed to be.
Well, all physics is our physics.
Do you think there could be Sure, but do you think there could be a completed or ideal physics?
No, because physics, again, is just a language to describe the stuff that's there. And so if you're just making a language to describe the stuff that's there, if one of the requirements that it entails is like the substance of the stuff itself must be described in this language, well, then you're going to get the map and the territory fallacy. You obviously can't do that. You can never, using any description in physics, you will never be able to describe the fundamental nature of what energy actually is. Like you can't do it. All you can do is describe the interactions between it. Even given a universal omni-physics, you're going to have the same problem because it's just a map. It can never be the territory. So there are obviously always going to be things in any language that you can never describe in principle, because the language itself is always only going to be a representation of the thing. And so if there's any property intrinsic in the thing, like consciousness, the language will never be able to describe that. So this is true of all languages. There's no problem there.
Trying to understand the point is, so the idea is that look, in the physical ontology, there's just certain things that I guess are fundamental that can't be given any further description.
Well, no, I'd say it's deeper than that. There are certain things that cannot ever be described by any language, no matter what, because the language is always going to be a map. The map can never be the territory. Thereby, by definition, no matter what language you ever come up with, it will never be able to give you a description of the territory itself. You will always just be a map.
Well, the map does give a description of the territory. That's what a
Yeah,
map
so it
does.
seems-
Well, yeah, so
It
we can give a
seems like-
description of consciousness, but we can't give consciousness itself.
Sure,
just like
go
we
ahead.
can't give the map itself.
So it seems like this is uniquely an issue for conscious then? Like, is there anything else you think?
Yes, the fundamental
Can't give a
nature of matter, you could apply it like, you could never, in principle, with all possible words, describe a mountain. Because the mountain itself, if you describe some property of mountainness, like the property of being a mountain, there are no words that can give you mountainness. You can just describe what it looks like, but you can never get mountainness from a pile of words. So if you have some kind of physical thing, like say an object that weighs 2 pounds, you can never get 2 pounds with a combination of words, unless, like, granting you don't write them down. If you're just saying the words, none of the words are going to add up to 2 pounds. So there's no possible way to take the words and then put 2 pounds into the words to make it make sense. Like, no, it's a physical thing. So there's all kinds of things like this. It's not just consciousness.
Right, the description doesn't have to become the thing. Right?
Well, no, that's
Really?
that's what you are saying. So when you say, can you describe redness? Redness is consciousness. And so if you want a description of redness, you need it to become the thing. And so that's the problem with the idealistic or dualistic arguments, is that you're asking for the map to become the territory, which it obviously can't do. So it'd be like me asking if the words could become the 2 pounds. Like, obviously not. Is it a problem? No.
Well,
It's not
you
physical.
yourself,
I don't understand why no one's making this claim. Like, look, if
Well-
you think that consciousness is something out there in the world, right?
Yes.
You have consciousness over there. It's a physical thing on the physicalist view.
Yeah, it's a brain
Why
state.
can't we provide a map, give a description of it? in
We can.
physical
It's a brain
terms,
state.
right?
It's a brain state. We can.
yeah. So that brings
Okay,
me to
good.
where I was going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Just like,
you-
can we just finish
ahead.
this objection out before you ask the question? Yeah. So TJump, basically, yeah, B3, we'll get to you. We just want to finish this objection.
Well, I mean, I guess
Yeah, go ahead, Detroyer.
10 for 20 seconds to finish that point then we just go back to the knowledge argument, right? Presumably she can have those descriptions of brain states in the room.
What's your question?
I mean, then...
The question is, why can't you map out the descriptions of physical states?
Well,
So, yeah.
no, but he's granted that. Look, you have a description of the brain states, which you think are just the conscious states that Mary can have in the room. Then she doesn't... Does she or does she not learn something new when she has the experience itself?
What? I sneezed. I'm sorry, I sneezed.
Well, the idea of the knowledge argument is that, look, she can have the knowledge of all the brain states, and everything else in physical terms when she's in the room. But it's thought, the intuition is supposed to be at least, that she learns something new about the world when she...
Yep. So the same thing applies to the 2 pounds. So if I can give you a perfect description of 2 pounds, but if I like drop a 2 pounds in your hand, your tactile experience will not be entailed in that description. Your actual feeling itself, you will learn something new by touching the rock, because you have new experience that wasn't entailed in the words themselves. It was the experience of the rock itself. It's true of everything. So it's always going to be a confusion between the map and the territory. Like, obviously the map can never be the territory. So you will always learn something new if you literally experience the thing. The thingness of itself is always going to be different than the description of the thing.
Yeah, it's not requiring the description to become the thing. Like,
No, that's exactly what it is. That's the entire point of when you ask for, give me a description of redness. What is redness? Well, it's a conscious experience. The only way to give you a description of redness is with consciousness. You need consciousness because they are the same thing. You are asking for the description to be the thing literally. That is the problem.
No, because on the view, the conscious just is some physical state. So why can't you just describe the physical state? Right?
You can.
It's the same
It's a
thing.
brain state. This combination of neurological patterns, that's consciousness.
So you want to at the same time say you can give a full description.
Well, no, it's not a full
terms
description. It's just
of
a
the
description. So I can give you a description of a mountain, but it can never be a full description of the mountain because there's some mountainness there that the words can never be. So the physical description can never be absolute. That's the problem that you guys seem to be confusing. Like you think physicalism, the description of physics can literally describe anything. Well, no, like it can't. There's because of Gödel's incompleteness theorem number 2. Like, no, it can never do that.
I'm not sure where Gödel's coming in, but yeah, I don't see what's left out here. Right?
Oh,
I just gave you like
principle,
4
we could have a
examples.
complete physical description of the world.
So
Perhaps we could
okay,
have
tell me what the complete physical
theory of
description of the
relativity.
ontology of matter is. Like, what? Give me a physical description
Yeah,
of
but
what
on
makes
you,
energy.
on your view, but Detroyer's objection is on your view, the physicalist view. There must be some ability to do that, right?
No. Again, this is your straw man
not?
fallacy. Like, we do not need a way to describe everything. That doesn't mean
The
it's
question
not
isn't
physical.
whether we need it or not. On your view,
No,
it must be at least.
No, again, that is wrong. Your description of my view is completely wrong. Like, no, I do not in anywhere, nowhere, no physicalist thinks that if we don't have in our view some linguistic way to represent something, then it can't be physical. No one thinks that.
This is getting convoluted here because we're talking past each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just the main thrust of the knowledge argument here, and I guess where I'll leave it for me, someone else could jump in, is that you want to say at the same time that we can describe, whether it's a complete description or not, we can describe the mental state, the conscious state, in physical terms. Mary can have all that knowledge in the room, yet the consciousness somehow, the experiences that she has upon leaving the room give her some entirely new knowledge about the world.
Yeah, and I've literally answered this. So yes, the description, the knowledge, descriptive thing can never be the thing in and of itself. So yes, you can never get the thing in and of itself with any combination of knowledge. That's so obviously, yes, there's going to be something different there.
Yeah, but no one who advances the knowledge argument claims that, right? So I don't get the response at all.
Well, then you probably need to think about it more. It's not too hard to understand.
I mean, I don't accept it. I mean, I'm a physicalist. I don't accept the knowledge argument anyway, but this isn't the response I give.
I don't care
just
what the
don't
response you'd
understand.
give. My response is better.
Well, mine is the standard response in the literature that's widely agreed to be successful.
Okay, cool.
All right, so TJump, let's just try to rephrase that. So basically, the question ultimately comes down.
Whatever happened to me?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, B3. As long as it's on the
Oh.
topic. Yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty much on the topic. If it's not enough on the topic, you could jump in.
That's the
and I'll come
question.
back
Ask
to
the
it.
question.
All right, there. So you say redness is a brain state, right?
Well, redness is conscious experience, which is caused by a brain state. Yes.
All right. Now you're saying cause. Is it identical to it, or is it caused?
Well, it's again, the thing in and of itself is different from the description of the thing. So if you're saying, like, obviously our conscious experience is a brain state, it is a process of certain brain states. Yes.
So it's an effect of the brain state. It is not identical to it.
Right, because there's lots of brain states that aren't beliefs in conscious experience.
That wouldn't follow. That wouldn't matter. I mean, there could be some that are.
Yeah, there's some that are correct.
Right. So are there any mental states that are not brain states?
Yes.
For example,
Like subconscious experience.
that's not a brain state.
That is definitely a brain state. What?
That was the question. I said, give me an example of some mental states that aren't brain states, and you replied with subconscious experience.
So brain states and mental states, brain and the mind are the exact same thing. So if you're asking, are there any conscious experiences that are not brain states? No. If you're asking, are there brain states that are not conscious experiences? Yes.
Well, I was asking the first one, not the second.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't understand your question then.
Yeah. So redness then is a brain state.
Yep.
Okay. And the language description of redness is also a brain state, but a different one.
Yep.
Okay. Now that's all I wanted to clear up there. But the real question I wanted to get at was, what scientific evidence is there that there are such things as brain states that are the same across people, or even in the same person across time? Like, what actual scientific evidence is there for these things called brain states?
Inductive indexical. So we could say that, I think this object is red and this object is green. I also think that object is red and that object is green. And oh, look, there's this person with this visual, I forget what it's called, synesthesia, and they can't see these objects, but they can see these objects, so they must share the same property. So, and there's these other synesthetics that can't see those objects, but can't see these objects. And oh, it's these specific, forget what they're called, the photo thingies in the eyes are the ones that are damaged in this person because who has this synesthesia, and they're these in these persons, and we have those in our brains, and that's why we see this as red, and we have those as this, that's why I see this as green. Hey, that's good evidence that we're having the same kind of experience.
So if I can understand that properly,
Tom,
you mean there's
B3, go ahead.
just to understand what you see your reply properly, saying that there's a certain disorder or a certain condition of the brain that two people can share, and it'll cause some sort of effect in their visual perception. Or, yeah,
there's many different visual conditions that cause different effects that all seem to have a relation to them. So, for example, there's some.
What right do we have?
So synesthesia is like if you show people a bunch of colored dots, they can't tell you, like if you have a number 5 and a bunch of red dots and a bunch of green dots behind it, they can't see the number 5 because they can't, their brain can't differentiate between the colors. And so so we can see that there are these certain conditions that make certain colors visible and certain colors not visible. And there's this pattern that the ones they don't see as visible are the exact same ones that we see as red. If we see red, it's these cones. If we shut off these cones, we stop being able to see red. They experience the same thing because they have this condition.
I don't see, in the first place, I don't see how that connects to brain states.
So you asked, can two people have a similar experience, right? Or something like that.
No, I said, what scientific evidence is there for these things you're calling brain states that are the same across different persons, or even in one person from one moment to another?
So you're asking like conscious experience, right? Can two people have the same experience of reality?
No, I'm asking what's the scientific evidence that there.
Forget the scientific evidence. Get rid of the scientific evidence. What are you asking?
That's the question.
I don't care. No. What is the content of the question? What is the conclusion you're looking for? Are you looking for similar conscious experiences or similar shapes of the brain states?
So
here's the question: Is this a philosophical view of yours? Is there some scientific evidence for these things?
I don't know what the thing you're asking for is. A brain state? Do you mean by brain state? Do you mean is there a same physical structure of the brain? Like yes, are the physical structures in the brain? Is it reasonable to believe that we have similar conscious experience from those? Yes. I don't know what it is you're asking.
Well, we know that brains are similarly structured. No one's doubting that brains are similarly structured. We're saying states of the brain.
Yeah, what do you mean by brain states? I keep asking you, what do you mean by brain states?
I'm assuming it's some state of the brain that you could describe physically.
The shape of the brain?
Not just the brain itself, but a state.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what you mean.
Well, I know you don't, because there is no scientific evidence for it, as far as I'm aware.
I don't even know what you mean to even answer the question. So I can't like
so what,
blah blah. I don't know the scientific evidence. Blah blah blah.
Right.
Anyway,
define brain state.
Let's try to.
Well, for me, brain state is just the chemical process in the brain. It's determined by the pattern.
I think we're at an impasse. I think go on. Yeah, I'll just try to move the conversation a little bit. Yeah, so basically, TJump, the objections that we gave to your view, I think, were also the idea of that experience has to be normative and desires. Do you want to go into that a little bit? Because you touched on it a little bit, and you're saying basically that beliefs and desires don't have to be normative. Do you want to expound on that?
Like as Detroyer mentioned, like no, they don't. Like you could have a belief by an electrode sticking in your brain. The electrode is not in any way normative.
But again, if all of your beliefs are non-normative, don't you have a problem there, as in the negation of agency?
No. So again, agency, as I mentioned before, does not require normativity at all. So even if no brain states had normativity, you'd still have an agent if it was conscious.
But isn't the whole idea that agency requires some sort of a
no one thinks that. No one thinks that. That's so dumb.
So your view is that an agent can just be a mechanism as long as it has some kind of consciousness?
Yes.
So what's your argument for that?
Well, if there is simply like an ant or something that's paraplegic or whatever, and all it can do is just think of one thing, it's still an agent. It's still immoral to kill it. It still should be treated as a conscious agent and shouldn't be killed. There's all kinds of things. Like anything that is conscious, has an awareness of reality, is an agent.
Detroyer, do you agree with that view? Beliefs and desires don't require any kind of normativity.
Well, not. I mean, so it's gonna depend on how strong of a notion of normativity we have. Like as I was saying earlier, on a relatively
But
weak
TJump's
notion
view
where
is, that agency isn't a prerequisite for having beliefs and desires.
Well, no, your definition of agency, which is completely nonsense. So my definition of agency as a conscious thing with a brain state, yeah, it has beliefs and desires. So obviously, if you're conscious, to have a belief and desire, you have to be conscious. And since my definition of agency entails consciousness, and that's it, then yeah, you to have beliefs, you'd probably have to be an agent because you have to be conscious. But your definition of agency is just gibberish.
I mean, people generally take agent to be something like, well, an agent is something that has beliefs and desires and intentional states and acts based on those states, something like that, right?
Sure.
More in like vague terms, right?
Yep.
And yeah, you want to say, well, such a thing would be a conscious thing by definition, maybe. That's all fine. I'm not sure where the disagreement was exactly.
Me neither.
I think CC wants to say.
Well, basically,
well, let me see if I can steel man his argument. So I think what he's saying is that something to be an agent, it has to have this property of freeness that it can do otherwise, that it can't be. It's not being.
No. What I'm saying is agency is distinct from a mechanism, one whose actions are influenced by his or her beliefs and desires. And beliefs and desires are commitments, right? And these commitments influence one's desires. Now, again,
okay, simplify that. So if a belief is a brain state and the brain state can influence the desires, which are other brain states, then obviously that would still be consistent with your definition. So there's something else in your definition there.
But there is something else, because in your view, beliefs and desires are technically just emergent properties. I mean, beliefs and desires aren't even some brain states. I think that on your view,
emergent properties, like brain states are emergent properties, hearts are emergent properties, arms are emergent properties. Emergent properties still exist as physical things. Walls are emergent properties.
I don't think that. I don't think that. I don't know. I don't know that that's something that. I don't know that that's something that I find wide consensus in the field, because I mean, I think that there must be agency is supposed to be the opposite of what a mechanism is, right? Agency as distinct from a mechanism.
No one says that. No one says that.
Then what's the point of defining agency at all? Not just called
it's
consciousness.
Exactly what Detroyer said. So he gave a better definition than I did. It's just a thing that has beliefs and acts on those beliefs. Doesn't matter what the beliefs are made of, whether they're neurological brain states that cause those beliefs and they act on those brain states. That's still having beliefs and acting on those beliefs.
So how do you define beliefs?
A proclivity or desire of some kind, or just a position, an intuition. I'm not sure what the best definition of beliefs would be. It's just
the definition I was using
idea
was that beliefs are commitments.
Yeah, that's no. Well, I mean, maybe that would work.
You're saying that beliefs aren't commitments?
Maybe that would work. I'm not sure. It depends what you mean by commitments.
Well,
there's no normativity. There's no normative commitment. Like you're obligated to do something. It's like a commitment, as in I have this belief as of X. You're committed to this belief or position. Then yeah, that kind of commitment. Sure.
Yeah. So Detroyer, you share this view with TJump? Don't find this problematic?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What view exactly?
Basically, the view that beliefs and desires aren't commitments.
Well, no. Again, so if you define commitment as I am committed to this position, then it's that kind of commitment. But it's not a commitment as I am obligated to X. It's not that kind of commitment.
Yeah, but desires and beliefs are commitments that the agent sets out to achieve. Detroyer, are you fine with that?
So like you could I could zap your brain and an electrode, and your desire is caused by the electrode. You didn't set out a damn thing, and you could still be like motivated to achieve this thing that I've zapped your brain to do. So the agency doesn't need to set out anything.
But some desires will involve certain commitments, right? Whether it's a commitment to act in a certain way or form some other belief, maybe some epistemic commitment. Some desires will be like that, right? If you desire to, I don't know, quench your thirst, part of that desire is going to be a commitment to do so, right? To perform the action which you think would quench your thirst when you have the opportunity. That's at least entailed by having that desire. Maybe it's not.
Well, yeah, that's what I mentioned before. So if like I'm committed to this position or this goal or whatever, then that kind of commitment, perfectly yes. But it's not. There's no oughtness. There's no normativity there. That's like, I have a belief, therefore I have this normative claim that grounds this belief in some way. Like, no, it's just you have this desire to do X or whatever.
Yeah, but it's still sort of like an internal law, right? There's this standard that you've committed yourself to, right? And you can either succeed or fail to live up to it, right?
Sure, that fits in with my distinction between the type of I'm committed to at position X versus not the kind that he's mentioned of this normative kind of commitment.
Sure. I mean, if you don't want to call that normative commitment, then that's just a linguistic thing. But a commitment of a certain sort, which you can, sure. I mean, by your lights, you ought to live up to, and you could succeed or fail living up to. That's just normative, in at least a weak sense.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, then I just still don't see how you get around the objection that the view of this sort of hard determinism you seem to espouse kind of negates agency.
No, because you can have a brain state which gives you some desire to have water or whatever, and there's another brain state that causes you to pursue this desire. That's the normativity. It's those brain states. The relation between those brain states is what causes that normativity of you have a desire to do X, and your brain states give you a method to try to achieve to do X, and then because you have a desire, it then lights up the pathway to cause you to do the method to try and get the thing. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, yeah, let's come back to this. So, second objection that we originally gave you was concerning your moral realism, your sort of moral realism. So do you want to give us an outline again? I remember that mostly it basically delves into imposition of will is what you define as immoral.
Okay, so
involuntary imposition.
Yep.
Involuntary. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think there is this phenomenon in the world, moral intuition and moral progress. We have this experience that killing people is wrong, and we call whatever that is, that's morality. And we're trying to figure out what is that thing. And so the way I do it is I plot out the pattern and what I see our moral intuitions to be and moral progress over time. I say, well, can I make a principle that describes this pattern? Like, yes, I'm going to come with any involuntary imposition will is wrong. That is the principle I think describes this pattern best. And so then I'm going to say, well, I think this is an objective truth, so there could be some property in reality to which this refers to, and I think it's probably going to be an higher order emergent property like fitness or health, and so it's probably going to hold true across all species and all things of life everywhere in the universe. Under the condition that they have enough intelligence resources, they're all going to move towards this pattern. And I make a prediction that if this is the case, then there's going to be certain things in the future we're going to see that we wouldn't predict today. Like, for example, we're going to see rocks falling on people as immoral once we have sufficient resources that no one deliberately imposes on anyone else's will. Then we are going to begin to see rocks falling on people as immoral in the future. And that is my position. It's just we have this phenomenon. I make a principle to describe the phenomenon. I try to make predictions about what, if the principle is correct, what we would expect to see in the future.
Okay, so well, the objection that we gave is first of all that well, there was actually a couple of objections that we gave, but one of the objections.
Well, the biggest one is like you keep saying I'm changing the definition of morality or something like that.
Well, yes, the first one was that it's like descriptive ethics, not like normative.
So let me address that. The first thing is that morality is whatever is causing that. So there's a phenomenon of moral intuition, moral progress. Whatever is causing that phenomenon, that's morality. You don't get to define it. It's just whatever is causing that phenomenon, that's morality. Regardless of whether you think it's defined by normative or whatever like limitations you place on the definition are irrelevant. So if evolution is just a product of or if morality is just a product of evolution, then morality is a subjective evolutionary byproduct, and that's it. So you don't get to presuppose the definition of morality. Morality is whatever is causing that phenomenon, the moral intuition, moral progress. Whatever is causing that phenomenon, that's morality. You don't get to place preconceived definitions on that.
Right, and our objection was,
No.
go ahead, Detroyer.
I mean, that would be fine if what people meant by morality was a sort of indexical concept like that. Like, what I mean by morality is whatever is causing this phenomenon, whether, moral intuition, moral progress, whatever. But that's not how people define the term. That's not what people have in mind when they use the terms.
Well, no. So what they have in mind when they use the term is
Maybe it's not clear.
is the intuition. So there's this. We have this moral intuition, moral progress. Killing babies is wrong. That's what morality is. That everyone uses morality to describe those things. Whatever these feelings are, whatever is causing those, that's morality. That's everyone uses morality to mean that. And then I go further and say, well, that is caused by involuntary position of will. So that's my personal theory. But everyone agrees morality is the phenomenon of moral intuition and moral progress. Whatever that is, that's morality. How do I turn on slow mode?
Do you want me to turn on slow mode in general?
No, it's in my YouTube chat.
Oh, okay. Tom, Detroyer, do you want to address that or?
Give me a second. I'm just eating something.
That's fine.
I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Yeah, you eat, and when you're done. So, Tom, the other objection that we gave to that view is, so first of all, I don't think that you can rescue moral realism that way. Of course, that was one of those. But another objection to that sort of morality is basically, if you believe that acting on intuition is what determines moral, basically what gives us incentive to be moral, isn't intuitive morality a normative notion, which means that it would be person dependent.
I have no idea what you just said.
Okay, so let me try to rephrase that. Isn't intuition a person sensitive thing?
Sure.
So then how do you rescue objective morality that way?
It's just a phenomenon. So if we see a cup fall over, whatever is causing that cup to fall over, we call that gravity. Gravity is the thing that causes stuff to fall, and we see stuff falling. Now, it's possible we're all just under a delusion, and we all have different conceptions of what it is, and it's possible it's some external thing in reality. Just saying that we have this subjective experience of it, obviously the subjective experience is subjective. But that doesn't mean the thing is subjective. Like we could see an ocean in the distance. It's possible it's just a mirage, just a subjective product of our brains. It's possible it's really there. But just saying we see it doesn't prove that it's a mirage. So I think you seem to be confusing the fact that our experience of the phenomenon is obviously subjective. But that doesn't tell us one way or the other whether the thing in itself is or is not subjective.
Right, so not to
Wait,
yeah,
Could
go
I
ahead.
check for a second?
Yeah, okay, go
Hold
ahead.
on. So, are you arguing that we have like a subjective experience of morality, and morality is somehow like some objective truth of the universal?
Yeah, that's
It
moral
seems really-
realism. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That was kind
Isn't-
of we should have known that like
hold on.
coming in here.
That's like really, really dumb.
What's that, Tom?
Like that
What's
was
that, Tom?
everyone should know that I'm a moral realist by now. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that.
I admit I didn't know that, but moral realism is so stupid. So
Okay, you can take that up with the consensus of or the majority of philosophers who are moral realists. Tell them to that. Tell it to them.
Okay, I mean, I don't care.
Okay. I think that's stupid.
So
but okay.
So all right, let's just. What is morality, first of all?
Well, I mean, I don't think we should go down the route of what moral realism is because we've literally covered that, and it's like I'm a moral realist.
Yeah, that would be outside of the scope. But yeah, I mean, I have to say that I have a bit of a respect for Detroyer. Are you back?
Yeah.
Yep. Just a second. I have to say that. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, it might get somewhat deep, but it sounded like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you were saying, look, people have these, responses to certain actions, and they call that they call this action immoral, right? Say,
No. So they have a feeling. They have a feeling that killing people is wrong. That feeling is what they're calling moral. Whatever that feeling is, whatever is causing that feeling, that's what morality is. It's that feeling that is whatever morality is. So morality, the term morality in every model of philosophy refers to those feelings that we have. It's not the actions themselves. Like you could say it's moral to kill babies for fun or whatever. That who cares? That's irrelevant. It's the feelings that you get from those actions that are what we're calling morality. Or that is what morality is, or the effect of morality, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, now I don't really understand at all then, because if we're saying that the feelings are what morality is, well then, isn't immoral action just some feeling or some subset?
No. The actions, or whether or not an action is, those are all subsequent follow-ups to explanations of morality or explanations of those feelings. I have a feeling that killing babies is wrong, therefore it is immoral to kill babies. But when you say, well, what is morality? Morality is, well, we feel that there's this thing there that it is wrong to kill babies. That feeling is what gives us, is the phenomenon of morality. So we have this phenomenal experience that it is wrong to kill people for fun. And we think that that feeling corresponds to something, to morality. And so morality is the phenomenon of that feeling. Whatever is causing it, whatever is that feeling, that's morality. So obviously the feeling itself isn't moral or immoral.
Aren't feelings inherently subjective, not objective?
Yes.
Wait, let Detroyer hit.
So I'm a little bit puzzled on what it means to say that the feelings are morality, but I just want to.
Well, how is it like if I say a cup? Just that's a good point to bring up on to talk about. So if I say a cup falls, whatever is causing that to fall, that's gravity. So I see a phenomenon, I label the phenomenon with a name. I say something is causing the cup to fall every time I pick it up. That thing is gravity. So whenever I use the term gravity, I'm referring to that phenomenon of stuff falling when I drop it. Right? That makes sense. So, so I have this feeling that when killing people for fun, that's immoral. I have this feeling, this experience I'm having, that like seeing the cup fall as an experience of my eyes. I have this feeling internally that killing people for fun is wrong. And so that experience, I'm going to label that morality in the exact same way. So obviously in both cases, I know nothing about what's causing either one yet. I just know there is this phenomenon and I've labeled it with this title. One, stuff falling, whatever's causing that, that's gravity. Killing people for fun, whatever's causing my feeling that that's wrong, that's morality. So there are these phenomenon and we label them with this term.
Wait, is it the feeling itself that's morality, or whatever's causing the
whatever's causing it? So the feeling itself is just the phenomenon. So like literally the cup falling isn't gravity.
Right. So in the case of where someone has a feeling that, I don't know.
Well, the feelings themselves don't make a difference. So you could have any feeling, like I could say it's immoral to eat broccoli or whatever. Well, I still have that same feeling and I'm labeling that feeling as morality. So we have some agreement that the feeling has some similarities across peoples, that like killing people is wrong and that there's patterns to it. But the same thing could apply, like if you're a psychopath or whatever and you think it's moral to eat babies, it could still be the same feeling. So yes, the feeling itself is subjective.
Right, but just take the less controversial case, like killing babies for fun, right? I mean, what is it that's causing that feeling? Because that's what you're identifying as morality, right?
No, so I haven't identified anything as morality yet. So just in the definition, morality just refers to the phenomenon. We have a phenomenon that killing babies for fun is wrong. Some people may have a different experiential phenomenon that killing babies for fun is good. But that we label these feelings as morality. Whatever is causing that is morality. We don't know what it is yet. We're just saying that whatever is causing this phenomenon, that's what we mean by morality. And then I go into what I think it is. Yeah. So does that part make sense to you?
I mean, I think I understand you, right? Whatever is causing these feelings is what we call morality.
Yep.
And then you want to go from there to first. I'll go back onto whether I think that's a good account of a concept, but you want to say that what is causing that those feelings is what exactly?
Well, so I say that in order to discover what is causing this phenomenon, we do the same thing we do with gravity. We try to find a pattern. What is the pattern in the phenomenon? So I take the general experience of moral intuition, moral progress. I try to create a principle that most succinctly or accurately describes that pattern. And I say, I think that the principle that describes the pattern in this phenomenon is any involuntary imposition of will is wrong. That's what I think it is. And then from that, I say, well, what could this be? I think maybe it's a higher order emergent property like fitness or health or whatever. That's my hypothesis. And I say, if my hypothesis is correct, here is something we would expect for the predictions.
So, I mean, I think we could agree, at least for sake of argument, that it is some sort of general fact about the people's feelings of this sort, that they're immoral. The things identified as immoral are those which are involuntary impositions of will. I mean, that could be contested, but I mean, we could grant that, right? But that would just be something true, in general at least, of these feelings. But that doesn't get us to the cause of those feelings. Wouldn't the cause in individual cases be, I don't know, some prior mental states, various interactions with the world that like.
Yeah. So for example, like if we have like a bunch of people standing on a hill and we all see an ocean in the distance, some people could see the ocean as green, some people could see it as blue. The ocean itself could just be a mirage. We're all just hallucinating it. We have no idea. But a lot of us seem to share some of the experience. It seems like it's always blue. It always has these kinds of properties to it. So it's reasonable to hypothesize that maybe that's a real thing out there. Maybe what we're seeing is actually a real thing that exists. We should try to go, if it did exist, how could we like test that? Here's a prediction we could make that. Well, if we go over there and like get a cup of it, it's gonna have like water in it or whatever. So right now in the stage of morality, we're all just standing on the mountain. We see this experience of the ocean in the distance. We all have different experiences of it. Some people see it's red, some people see it's green, whatever. And we're trying to figure out, well, is it real? Is it just a hallucination? Those are all the hypotheses. My hypothesis is it's real. It's a higher order emergent property. And I then make predictions about what's going to happen to us in the future, the future experiences we're going to have that we haven't had yet, like going down and taking a cup of water or whatever. And so that's just works the exact same way science does, is that we're just, again, standing on a mountain. We all have this experience. There's some commonalities to the majority of us. It could still all be a delusion. It could still just be a product of evolution, just like a mirage of an ocean could be a product of evolution and just an illusion. But that doesn't give us an issue. It's still perfectly fine to say, well, it could still be a real thing out there.
So the real thing out there is involuntary imposition of will.
No, that's the principle to describe it. So like saying the ocean is blue. Like obviously the statement the ocean is blue isn't what's out there. It's just there is an ocean out there and it causes us a feeling of blueness. So there is some moral thing out there and it causes us a feeling of involuntary impositions of will is wrong. So the involuntary imposition is a description of the thing. It is not the thing itself.
Right, but I'm using that description in order to pick out the thing, obviously.
Sure.
And so that thing, which I use that description to pick it out, is something in the world. And it's causing our feelings, say, when we think that killing babies for fun is wrong. And because we say, well, what we mean by moral is just whatever is causing those feelings, well, morality is, involuntary imposition of will or something like that.
Yeah, but I'd say like,
goes?
Yeah, pretty much. So involuntary imposition of will would be referred to a higher order emergent property of nature, but yeah.
Right. I think I kind of understand the system vaguely. I don't know if someone wants to jump in because I've like at least 5 or 6 ways to go in criticism here. So I don't know if someone else wants to talk or do you want me to keep going? It's up to you.
You can go for it. Like, criticisms are
Yeah,
good.
Detroyer, I'll jump in. I just want to hear your first 2 objections and I'll just jump in.
Sure, I'll make 2. First, I guess the biggest one is that it doesn't seem that this is how people fix their concept of morality, right?
What do you mean?
It's not like, so let's go back to the gravity example, right? If what we meant by gravity was just, well, by gravity I just mean like whatever it is that's causing these things to fall. Right?
Well, isn't that what people did mean by gravity? Like, is there?
Sure. Yeah, we can go with that, right? I mean, maybe we do mean that by it. It's a perfectly fine definition. I mean, let's just suppose that's all we mean by it. Whatever. And then it would turn out that what gravity is, what that term picks out in the world, is just whatever it is that causes that. Assuming there is such a thing. So for the analogy to hold in the morality case, our concept of morality has to work in an analogous way. It has to be something like, well, by morality, I just mean whatever it is that causes this, right? But I take it that's not what people mean.
I don't follow your argument. So essentially, as far as I know, everyone who uses the term morality refers to some feeling. They have a feeling that this thing is wrong, and then they give a definition of what they think that is, and then they refer to that definition as what they mean by morality. So I think that what causes this feeling is X, God, or whatever. So I think morality is the nature of a God. Like, okay. Or you can think, I think the nature of morality is a product of evolution. Like, okay. Like, so what people usually refer to as morality is what they think is causing those feelings, but they always refer to those feelings. Those feelings are what they mean by morality. Just like when someone says that stuff is falling, and I think whatever is causing that is gravity, like maybe they think it's a bunch of green pixies like pulling stuff or whatever, then they think gravity is a bunch of green pixies. So what people mean when they say morality is they take that experience of their feeling and then they apply what they think the answer is to it, or their preferred principle of what it is. And they say, well, this is morality, this principle that I've made up. The principle doesn't matter. Like that's irrelevant. That's just their subjective interpretation of it, which may or may not be right. What morality actually is whatever is causing those feelings, regardless of what they think the principle should be defined as. And I think the point you're making is that, well, most people define the principle in this way. And so I think that most people mean morality, they mean this principle that they've defined. Like, okay, but that's not an argument, because the morality itself is the feeling, not the principle.
No, so people will have various attitudes, right? They'll have the attitude that X is immoral,
Yep.
permissible, whatever, in different moral terms. But I think it's just plainly false that people identify those attitudes or the cause of those attitudes with morality itself, right? By morality or moral, people have a concept in mind. It has to do with things like normativity and what
I'm not
people
quite
should do.
following, because that's literally the same thing as what I just said. So they have this feeling that that is wrong to kill, and they say that the reason we have this feeling is that the principle that best describes these feelings is that we have this normative feeling that we should not kill, or that we have this obligation not to kill. That's the principle they have come up with to describe those feelings. So they're still referring to the feelings. I'm not sure what you're saying here, because they are still referring to the feelings.
No, they have. It's not a. They have feelings, sure, but it's not like morality is about those feelings, right? They think that some of their feelings are expressed through moral statements, perhaps.
Right. So like if I see a cup fall, like my experience of the cup falling, if I'm describing the cup falling, I'm not describing my experience. Like clearly my sense experience isn't what I'm talking about. I think there is a cup there and it's really falling. So yes, I think that there is a thing there that I'm describing. The same applies to morality. So I think I have this feeling that morality, that is wrong to kill babies. And I think that refers to this principle of, well, it's a normative thing. There's this normative obligation there, and that's what this feeling refers to, or that's the best way to describe this feeling. But it's still the feeling. Like, I don't know what you're objecting to. Like, everyone who uses the term morality refers to their feelings of morality, or someone's feelings of morality.
The point is that for this to work, what people mean by morality has to include at least some reference to the cause of those sorts of feelings. That's just not the case.
It's literally the case for everyone who's ever used the term. I'm not following what you're saying here. So anyone who ever describes anything related to morality, they are always referring to, some people have this experience that killing people for fun is wrong. And that thing, whatever is causing that experience, or however best to describe that experience, that's morality. Everyone who uses the term means it that way. There's not, unless they're coming up with some new thing with morality, but I don't know what you mean when you say no one uses it. That's literally how everyone uses it. There's a phenomenon, and we're describing the phenomenon.
But then
I've never seen anyone use it that
no
way.
external
look,
reference.
You can give an explanation for what leads to various moral judgments.
Yeah.
But that's not what leads to those judgments is not what people have in mind by morality. Like, you could get struck by lightning, and that could cause you to have a certain moral judgment.
Yeah.
It's not like that's what people mean. Or if you said, "Oh, that's what you're picking out by your moral terms," they'd raise a quizzical eyebrow at you. Like it's just like that's not what they mean at all.
Again, I have no idea what you're even saying right now. So everyone who uses the term morality, it refers to a feeling. We have this feeling, and that's the moral thing. Like whatever it refers to is the moral thing. Like I don't follow anything you're saying. So if someone gets struck by lightning and they have a feeling that killing babies is fun or moral or whatever, that's still morality. They're just wrong about it. They have a misconceived notion of that concept. It has been diluted in their brain some way, but they're still referring to the same feeling they're having as before when they thought previously before the struck of lightning that it was wrong to kill babies. It's the same feeling. The same moral feeling is there. I still not following at all what you're saying here. Like how do like if no one one sec if no one ever felt that it was wrong to kill anything ever, would there ever be this language of morality?
No, but I'm not denying that, right? Look.
Well, that's all I mean. That's all I mean when I say people are using this term to describe that phenomenon, is that this term literally refers to that phenomenon. If that phenomenon didn't exist, this term wouldn't exist.
Wait, but those are two different claims, right? The counterfactual isn't entailed by the first, like, then.
Wait. So obviously, I think I follow me. So it's possible that morality could exist if no one had feelings of morality. I agree there. But the fact that people have feelings of morality, they have this sense experience of it, and they've made this label to apply to that sense experience. So like, I see a cup falling, I'm going to apply that to gravity. Like obviously if no one ever saw anything, the term gravity wouldn't exist either. And it's true that those are two separate claims. Like their experience and terminology use and the phenomenon itself are obviously two different things. But the term which is what we're describing, is what do people mean by the term, only came about because of these feelings. They're literally using the term to describe these feelings in every single case. There isn't anything else it could possibly refer to.
I don't know, but there's two different things here, right? And it's not about the first point is fine, but the real point I'm getting at is that what's producing these feelings, right?
Well, that's not answered. So none of that is even answered in this. So it's just saying there is these feelings, and we're trying to ask the question of what are these feelings? How do we best describe these feelings? What is causing these feelings? Maybe it's just a brain state. That question is completely separate. That's a completely separate question.
But it's not a separate question in at least in the sense that you want to say that what morality is just is what causes these states, right? That's what you said. We mean, we have these moral.
Oh, sure. So I think that like we could have some sense of morality that has nothing to do with, if there was an objective morality, we could just gain some random sense that is corollary to it, but has nothing to do with it. I mean, that's possible.
So can you state kind of precisely what you think someone means when they say killing babies for fun is wrong?
So they have this feeling that when someone kills babies for fun, that it makes them feel bad. And they say, well, what is, I'm going to describe that feeling by saying the principle is we have this moral obligation to not do it because I have this feeling and I think that best articulates that feeling.
So is it cognitivist? Like, is it just like, or is it just like when they say killing babies for fun is wrong, they're really just expressing that they have they're just expressing their taste. They're just kind of
no. They have a taste, and then they have a theory to explain that taste, and they're referring to that theory. So they have the feeling of it's wrong to kill babies, and then they have a theory that explains that feeling. They think that, well, when someone kills babies, they are violating this normative rule that they ought not do, and that is my explanation of this feeling. And so so whenever I say something is moral, I'm referring to that theory that I've constructed to explain the feeling.
Okay, there's actually some progress. So is it kind of like, okay, the person has a sort of emotional response, like, I don't know, they don't like that someone kills babies, and then they call that
well first they say, well, I don't understand,
therefore immoral.
Well, no, the first thing they do is they construct an explanation. They have this feeling and say, well, I need to explain this feeling. There's this phenomenon and I want to explain it. And then they come up with a theory to explain it. And the theory is usually normativity. We have oughts. And they think that these principles they've discovered is what describes that feeling the best. And so when they say morality, they're referring to their theory that describes that feeling the best.
But the moral system, how are the moral systems describing the feelings, right? These are just kind of emotional responses. The moral systems are ways of classifying various actions as right or wrong.
Based on the feelings. So they're using the feelings and they're saying, what is the pattern in these feelings? And then they create a moral theory to describe the pattern in those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, that is one way to go about it, right?
Well, that's how everyone goes about it. I don't think there's another way to go about it.
Well, there is sort of the Methodist approach, but it's not really relevant. Like, yeah, you can go and say, look, these are the things we call moral.
How would you? I don't think you can use a Methodist. I don't think you can use Methodism here because I don't think you can come up with an arbitrary definition of morality without having experienced morality. That's why I mentioned before, like, if no one ever experienced morality, the word wouldn't exist. You have to start with a particularist model here because the only knowledge we have of morality is experiential. That's why everyone who uses the term has to be referencing the particular experience or someone else's particular experience of morality. Like, I don't think you can use a Methodism here.
I mean, I don't want to talk about the problem equitarian and shit, but you could just think that, well, what I mean by immoral is just something that is not goes against producing maximum utility or something like that.
Or you could just say morality means like the least cheesecake or whatever. You could just come up with any random methodological principle you want and say that's morality.
Sure. But anyway,
but I think we would both agree in that case. Then that kind of definition would be changing the definition of morality. I think that what most people mean isn't that. They're not just coming up with some method and saying, I think morality is cheesecake. I think pretty much everyone who uses the term, like universally, starts with a particular feeling. I have this feeling that drowning babies is immoral. And then they come up with a principle to describe that feeling. I think pretty much everyone in moral philosophy, that's how they do it. I don't know of anyone who starts with the methodological morality is cheesecake. I think anyone who does that is going to be privy to the criticism that you guys have been throwing against me that, they're just changing the definition of morality. Like, I don't think it quite works that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more complicated than that, but I mean, sure. But what I wanted to get to was, looks okay. What we have is these individual feelings that we call, feelings of morality, right? People tend to think that, say, X is wrong, and so we want to give an account of wrongness that kind of can maybe generate some more general principle that can describe what's common to those feelings, right?
Yeah, we come up with patterns to describe the feelings for sure.
Right. Before I get to the second criticism I wanted to get to, well, the one thing is first, you did bring up oughts and normativity when you're describing the feelings. Do you think, so do you agree when someone says X is immoral that they're saying, or at least saying something which entails that somebody ought not do X?
No, that's when most people use the term morality, their principle of what they think describes that entails oughts and normativity. Mine does not. So I disagree with most people's principled definition in that case.
So do you think you're kind of talking past a lot of people when you use the term moral?
No, because again, all I'm referring to is the thing that's causing those feelings, which everyone agrees upon. I'm not talking past people. They're just assuming their definition. I'm saying that definition is wrong because I expressly state this every time, so I can't be talking past them. I say there's no oughts there, so I can't be talking past people. Unless I tried to I never mentioned that and said, I'll just like slide it under the rug. Like then it would be talking past people. But since I expressly state it and say your principle that you've come up with to describe morality is incorrect, I can't be talking past people because I'm going straight to the point.
Wait, but hang on. How do we get back to, it's not the case that people think that morality is just whatever's producing these principles. We can agree that people will take morality to be, I don't know, sorry, whatever's producing these feelings. We could agree that people mean by morality.
So whenever
Like
I say
something like
whatever's
whatever the
causing,
best-
whenever I say whatever's
whatever the best
causing, wait,
description
just
of
to
these
clarify. So whenever I say whatever is causing these feelings, I just mean the description of the feelings, what best describes the feelings. So it doesn't have to be literally be a cause or like a god or something. It could just be the principle they use to best describe the feelings, which could be the normativity thing. It would still apply to that same my usage of whatever's causing those feelings.
That's better. I mean, I think that's something that can be worked with. That makes more sense to me. The causing the feelings thing.
Yeah, I can understand how that's confusing because it implies that there's like a thing out there that's literally causing the feelings, which is a separate topic for sure.
Yeah, so here by morality we just mean, well, whatever principle or principles best describe what's common in the various moral feelings that we have. And moral feelings are kind of defined just
Moral intuition, moral progress.
one by one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we have certain feelings that we call moral feelings. Okay, I'll skip over a few things, and then at this point in the sort of in the procedure, or figuring out morality, you say, well, the best principle that
what I think
counts
the
for
best
feeling that
principle
people
is,
have.
what I think the best principle
Yeah.
is. Yeah, is involuntary imposition of will. So I think the best principle is involuntary imposition of will, which disagrees with most other people's think what the principle is.
It's not just going to be that it disagrees with most people's intuition of what the principle is. It's also going to, I think, quite plainly not be a good general principle for the moral feelings that people have.
Well, again, all you're saying is that what you think the principle is different than what I think the principle is.
No, but the principle is defined by whatever best describes.
Right, and you think the principle that
feelings
best
that people
describes
have.
them includes normativity, and I don't. But still, you just think the principle is different than what I think the principle is. That's what you're arguing.
No, but the point is that this principle won't, regardless whether it's normativity or not, right? This principle will not account for the moral feelings that people have, right? And just in the sense that when a lot of people say X is moral, your principle will disagree, right? And there's a lot of particular examples.
Yes, but that's
principle
again,
fails.
that's just saying that you think the principle is different than what I think the principle is. So my principle has lots of things to it that entails all different kinds of worlds. So 90% of it would be things that we would disagree with because it applies to all possible worlds that we haven't achieved yet. Because I think that morality changes over time. And since my model is describing that change in morality, it's also going to describe the morality at all the points that it's changed in the future. So it's obviously going to disagree with where we are today and disagree with where we are in the past. So it's not a problem that it disagrees. All it needs to do is describe what our current moral feelings are and why they are that way, and then say what they are going to be in the future and why they are going to be in the future. So if my model said our feelings of morality should be something different than what they are today, then that would be a disagreement. But since it doesn't, it says this is what our moral feelings are today, and here's why they are today, and here's what they will be in the future. There isn't a disagreement there in my model.
So I'm trying to understand. It's not a problem for the principle that your principle says that X is immoral, but almost universally people have the moral feeling that X is moral. That's not an
No,
issue
so it's
for
like if I
principle.
said the moon is there, whatever, like around the Earth, and someone creates a model of physics says, well, in 10,000 years the moon is going to be in the sun or whatever, but you say, but no, but the moon's right there. I mean, everyone sees the moon right there. It's clearly not in the sun. Well, I mean, obviously, this isn't a prediction about now. It's a prediction about the future. So my model is saying, in the future, we can understand morality to be like this. And since we were talking about objective morality, we need a principle that describes the moral things today and the moral things in the future. So just accounting for the moral things today would not work. I can't just say in my physics it's only ever going to describe the moon going around the Earth, because clearly it may not. So if there is an objective morality, it has to account for not only the moral intuitions we have today, but the moral intuitions we have in the future and in the past. So criticizing the model by saying, well, we don't agree with the moral intuitions that we will have in the future, we're like, obviously, I mean, that's not a criticism because it specifically says that's why they're going to be in the future. So saying that because my predictions about what morality will be in the future do not agree with our current moral things is like saying, well, the moon is clearly right up there in the sky. It can't ever be in the sun. Like, no, that isn't really a criticism.
But the principle says nothing about then, like it doesn't describe our current moral foods
Yes, it
now
does.
at all. Then.
Yes, it
It's
does.
just saying this is what we would call moral or immoral.
No.
in the
So
distant future, should
it
that ever
absolutely
come.
does. So my model specifically says that in a society, what we perceive as moral or immoral is contingent on the amount of resources we have. So if we gain more resources, our scope of morality increases. So the moral intuition of any given society is going to be determined by the amount of resources they have. And if they have more resources, then they're going to have a larger scope of moral inclusion. For example, that's how we get gay rights, women's rights, all those other kinds of freeing the slaves, all those kinds of things occur because as we gain in resources and can sustain more people without destroying the society because of lack of resources, then they will be included in the moral framework. And that explains why we are the way we are today, why we think putting people in prison is moral, because we don't have the resources to not put them in prison without having greater consequences. Therefore, we think in today's society it's moral to do so, or why many people think it's moral to kill animals, because we don't have a sufficient amount of resources to feed everyone without killing the animals, therefore, or haven't for most of human history, so we think that's moral. So it does explain today's morality also, but if I'm talking about objective morality, which I think is the thing, then I can't just base my model off of today's. I also have to have a principle that it also accurately describes the moral principles of the future and the past. So if I'm trying to make a moral principle that's consistent with not just today, but also the future and the past, which will be different, then I need to find a commonality between all of those things, which is going to be different than just today's necessarily.
So what's the commonality again between today's and the sort of ideal?
The commonality is involuntary imposition of will, essentially. It's like plus resources or minus resources. So we think that
But that's
if like what we see as moral at any given time can be calculated by, does it include an involuntary imposition of will, and do we have sufficient resources to sustain that will without causing damage to other wills? And if we do that calculation, you can find out in any given society what one thing people will think is moral, what thing they won't think is moral.
okay. So why wouldn't you just say something is immoral based on the balance of imposition of will and the available resources?
Well,
Why
that's
just say it's
subjectively moral. So, because when I think of moral, I think of objective morality. I want to know what the universal principle of morality is. I don't want to know what is subjectively moral at any given time. I want to know what the universal principle is. So when someone asks me what is morality, I mean the universal principle, not the subjective context of any given society, because that's obviously subjectively moral or
No,
relatively
but you
moral.
could generate a universal principle, an objective principle based on this, right? You could just say, I don't know, you have some formula
Right, yeah. So I could like say that
amount of resources to amount of imposition.
But then I can go, if I go to the best of all possible worlds, the equation is going to be what would impose on will given that we have infinite resources, and so there's a minus of 0. You just take out the 0 and you're left with any involuntary imposition of will is wrong. So using that same equation, you get the exact principle I've just stated. It's just the addition would be like adding a 0 at the end for that best of all possible worlds. So because I'm answering in the context of the best of all possible worlds, and it has a 0, I just omit the 0 and just say any involuntary imposition of will is wrong.
Yeah, but then couldn't you just, I mean, that's fine when you're talking about that ideal world or world with unlimited resources, but you could just use your principles now to describe and apply it to other states of the world. Where
Yes,
your
absolutely. That's
resources
what I
allow them.
do.
And it's still objective, but
Yes.
the point is not that the principle is just involuntary imposition of will. It's involuntary imposition of will versus resources. And you could say that, I don't know, pushing someone away from an oncoming train is moral because of that balance of imposition of will and resources.
Well,
Even
that
if
could just be
the same action in the ideal world would not be.
that could just be a preference thing. Like, I don't think it is. I think when I intuitively feel that, I think that no, we should assess it from the perspective of the best of all possible worlds and not say that the morality is in fact changed by the resources. I don't think the effect of the resources should have any impact on the morality. I think the morality is the objective claim about the best of all possible worlds. I don't think it is a subjective claim about we should pragmatically do. I think those are two separate things intuitively. And so I think that definition that you give of saying something is moral if it has the least involuntary piece of will relative to the resource, I think that's wrong. I think that's subjective morality. I don't think that's objective morality. I think that's relative and subjective. So I think that would be incorrect to call that morality under my definition or under my understanding of morality.
I think it's no less subjective than the first one. But
So again, this is purely my intuition is that when I'm talking about what objective morality is, it's kind of like a God where it's this unchanging absolute thing. And I want to know what the unchanging absolute thing is. And so when we're talking about something relative to the amount of resources, that to me feels intuitively subjective. And so I would not call that objective morality, but that could just be my intuition on the topic.
But the principle would still be unchanging. It's just that the various conditions.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that my intuition is that I would not call that objective morality. I think that would still qualify as subjective, because if it's relative to some principle that means it can change, then it would not qualify as absolute objective morality, because I want something that's unchanging to be my absolute objective moral basis.
Just to repeat though, that the principle would be objective and unchanging. It's just the same as the other principle. But let me just quickly on the why you might want to prefer a model like this over the other one.
Wait, just to clarify. So the morality part, I think, is by my definition just the involuntary imposition of will, and the resources part is the pragmatic part. So in my definition, if you have to put someone in prison to stop them from killing 5 other people, I think that it's immoral to put them in prison, but it's pragmatic. So the resources thing to me is the pragmatic aspect, not the moral thing. The moral thing is just the involuntary imposition of will, and the resources is just the pragmatic component to it that makes a justifiable imposition of will. So I wouldn't define the entire thing as the moral principle. The moral principle is the involuntary imposition of will, and then what accounts for our morality today is the pragmatic part of what causes the feelings, which is the limited resources.
Yeah. But what I was going to say was, or one reason you might have for preferring a system like this, where you include the mention of resources in your objective principle rather than just involuntary imposition, is that, look, I mean, it just seems to be, it's going to be a better theory of our moral intuitions if it correctly predicts the intuitions that we have, right? And a principle that says, that entails that X is moral, and that's the sort of intuition that we have, that X is moral. It's going to be a better principle.
I think that's clearly wrong.
One that better describes our intuitions than one that doesn't predict that.
No, I think that's clearly wrong. It's like saying that if I have a model of physics that accurately predicts that people are going to believe in Newtonian mechanics, and I call them right, I say they're right when they believe in Newtonian mechanics, I think that's, well, no, they're wrong. They're wrong to believe in Newtonian mechanics. Now, they have justifiable reasons to believe in Newtonian mechanics, but it's false. So I think morality is the same, where I can say people have justifiable reasons to believe this is moral, but they're wrong. They're not right. That they're incorrect to think it's moral to put people in prison. They are wrong, just like people who believed in Newtonian mechanics were wrong, even if they had justifiable reasons. I think that is a more accurate, better system than one that says they were right to believe in Newtonian mechanics at the time. Like, I don't think so. I don't think that's a better system.
I'm not saying that they were. I think the analogy breaks down. Because of the way the things were defined, right? So if we're starting with, look, we have these feelings, we want some principle or principles that best sort of describe those feelings, so we can maybe classify things as immoral or moral. The best theory is going to be the one that correctly predicts the feelings we have, right?
Right. But that's only if there isn't an objective truth. If there's an objective truth to the matter and our feelings are trying to refer to that objective truth, then you need a principle that describes the objective truth and our relation our beliefs have to it. So if
I thought the objective truth just was the principle that best describes.
That's a possibility. So there's multiple possibilities here. One is that it's just a subjective illusion. One is a product of evolution. One there's a God, terrible option. Or one it's a higher order emergent property. There's all these different kinds of things. Because in my theory, I think that there is an objective thing. I have to include that objective thing in my model. So I have to make reference to this objective truth, which means that today our intuition that putting people in prison is wrong. It is wrong to have this intuition. We are incorrect And there is a correct standard there that we need to incorporate into this model. Whereas taking your proposed alternate definition would be to discount that objective truth and say that it's just trying to accurately describe our moral intuitions today and not include that objective truth part to it.
No, but I guess maybe your hang up here is that the revised principle, which I was going to kind of push forward towards a sort of utilitarian, because I think that's where kind of the logical consequence of it is. But leaving that aside, the principle can be stated in perfectly objective terms. I don't see what's subjective or less subjective.
It can't be
than the other
objective and absolute. It has to be objective, because there's objective versus subjective and absolute versus relative morality. When I'm talking about objective morality, because I was brought up a Christian, that term to me has this baggage that it's objective and absolute. So it can't have this changing feature to it, because it wouldn't fit my intuition of morality, and it wouldn't fit many intuitions of morality. So for me, for it to be objective, it has to be objective and absolute, which means you can't have this changing feature of resources in it. That is an inaccurate description of morality, of objective and absolute morality from my intuition. I would say that is an incorrect way to assess objective morality.
Well, so there's, at least a couple issues here, but one that I could point out is, that's going to be true also of the involuntary imposition definition, because things like, what counts as an involuntary imposition is going to change, because that changes based on, the wills that people have, right?
Sure.
But is it therefore not absolute?
No, that principle is still absolute, because there's nothing in that principle that changes.
Right, but so too for the principle that I'm proposing. The principle that
I don't intuitively agree. So I would say that if you would say it's moral to put people in prison because there's a lack of resources, I would say that's wrong. That intuitively, that seems completely wrong to me. Like, nope, I don't think something because it's justifiable does not make it moral. I think that's where my model disagrees with utilitarianism and consequentialism, and why I prefer it to those models is because in utilitarianism and consequentialism, the action that produces the greatest, the least harm or whatever, the most utility, is the moral thing to do. That would mean like the consequence of killing one person or killing 1,000 people to save 10,000 would be the moral thing to do. And I think that is wrong. I think that is objectively incorrect. I think that the moral thing is never going to be to kill the 1,000 people. And so because my model intuitively
question begging, your principle.
This is my intuition. So my intuition of what describes the principle is that definition is incorrect. That's why I prefer my definition. So I'm not question begging here. This is just what I think the principle is best described as.
I guess we can leave it there. I've actually felt some progress has been made. I think I understand the view a bit better. But I'll just leave it again. I've only discussed some of my issues, but these were the biggest ones. I'll just leave it again at this. We have these two principles that we're comparing. One that's involves some sort of utility calculus a little bit more, and one that's just involuntary imposition of will. Both can be stated in purely objective terms. There's nothing subjective about them, and one of them predicts the moral intuitions that we have much better than the other.
Well, no, they both do. So, because the equation is the same in both of them. One is just which part of the equation the morality refers to. So in mine, the morality refers to just the involuntary imposition of will, and the pragmatic aspect refers to the resources. But it still predicts our actions today. It still predicts what we're going to experience today. It just says it's wrong. And I think that's a more accurate model.
Sure. But that part is fine. But remember how we built it up, right? Is that we have these moral feelings, and we say that whatever it is that produces those feelings, whatever it is that best sort of accounts for those feelings, that's the true moral principle.
Yep.
And if we have feelings like X is moral or X is immoral, I don't know how you would deny that the better principle is going to be the one that better predicts those moral feelings, right? One that returns the fact that X is moral or X is immoral, when that's the moral feeling that people tend to have.
It's the same as my example with the ocean. So if we're all standing on a mountain and we see an ocean, one of the possibilities is like somebody sees a red, someone sees a green one, someone sees a blue one. Some of the possibilities is that when we discover what the ocean is, the way it's reflecting light could kid our eyes in a way that doesn't accurately represent the ocean. So our perception of the ocean could be incorrect, even though I'm grounding my explanation of our perception based on our perception itself, that could still lead to the conclusion that some of our perceptions are incorrect, because we think that it is something out there independent of our experiences themselves. And if we grant that hypothetically that is the case, then it is possible that our experiences themselves could be incorrect in some way. So there isn't a contradiction there any more so than there is in science when we say, well, we see an ocean, but that could be a product of evolution, and so our understanding of it is incorrect because it's limited by some external source independent of the thing in and of itself. So if I think the ocean itself is a thing, and we have an experience of it, but our experience is limited by evolution, which has nothing to do with the ocean. Like obviously the objective moral ocean, whatever, is there. And then we have this subjective emotional evolutionary perception of it. I would not say that the ocean, when referring to the ocean, is not our perception plus the objective ocean. I'd say that's wrong. I'd say no, the ocean is the thing in and of itself, and our evolutionary perception has nothing to do with the ocean. It's just our perception of it. And you can do the same thing with morality. You can say there is an objective thing of morality there, and our subjective experience of it, which is the limited utility resources analysis, has nothing to do with objective morality. It's only about how our evolutionary impact has us experience it. And so I don't think it has anything to do with the objective ocean itself. And when I'm talking about morality, I'm talking about the objective ocean itself, not how its relative utility based on our evolutionary context. And that's why I think it's a better definition to say that the ocean itself is this thing, the involuntary imposition of will, and then our evolutionary utility is the resources thing, but that's not morality. Morality isn't a combination of those two things. It's just the involuntary imposition. Our utility is just our subjective experience of that thing.
But the point where the analogy breaks down is that by stipulation, morality is just whatever principle best describes the feelings that we have. I could give.
How does that break down? So, because like whatever is causing our experience of the ocean is what the ocean is, right? And so it could just be an illusion where there's electrons bouncing off a mirage, bouncing off the heat, which causes a perception of the ocean, in which case the ocean is a mirage. So that would still apply, even in the case of the ocean. That doesn't break down the analogy.
No, whatever. I wanted to give an example in terms of color, but I mean, we could just talk about the ocean.
Yeah, because it has, mirages have colors. Like the oceans appear blue and red and orange. So yeah, sure.
Well, okay. I mean, this is what I take you to be doing, just in a different domain. So, what's my theory of color? Well, I would probably, like, what are color? Like, its color exists in the world, or is it just something in our experiences? I prefer a sort of dispositionalist view where we say that, okay, we call a thing red correctly, just in case it's the sort of thing that's disposed to cause in us, and under certain conditions, these sort of experiences, which we call red experiences, right? So it's a sort of, a thing is red if it has that disposition to cause in certain conditions those experiences, something like that. And so, well, we could imagine also that we are going to change over time. Maybe we'll evolve better visual senses, and
see ultraviolet.
And maybe even the things we now that, given our current faculties, produce in us these certain visual experiences, will in the distant future produce in us a qualitatively different experience.
Yeah, I think I see where you're going with this. So, yes, like we could say that either of these hypotheses could make the same prediction. Like, so for example, if you make the hypothesis morality is purely an evolutionary process, we could still come to the same conclusion that, well, our intuitions are going to change in such a way, and you could get that right. That is correct. Underdetermination is a thing. You could always explain all data with infinitely many theories. What makes one right is whichever one comes first. So if I'm first, I get the answer right, I have evidence, regardless of whether or not other theories could also explain the same data.
Well, that wasn't but the point of my analogy was that, look, we could talk about red as being the thing which produces, is supposed to produce in us a certain experience in the distant future, right? As we can talk about more than in the morality case, that's supposed to be the analog there. But that's not going to correctly predict which things we'll call red now. And similarly, if we apply the principle in the other way, it's not going to correctly predict what things we'll call red in the future. But why wouldn't we have a more general principle of red that can correctly predict which things we'll call red now and in the future? And that seems to be a better description. Why would we?
Well, that goes back
to be worse off either now or in the future with the definition that's restricted.
Well, that goes back to if red is a thing, if there is a thing that is redness that is independent of our experience of it, and that thing is what's causing our experience, then we want to describe the thing, not our experience. And so describing our experience isn't what's important here. Our experience is trying to describe a thing that exists, and that's what we want to describe, regardless of our perceptions of it. We want to filter out our perceptions. We want to say our perceptions are wrong. Here are the ones that are right.
No, but the difference is that in these cases, so in both the color case and the morality case, the thing we're picking out is defined relative to our experiences, right? Because it's just the principle that best accounts for our descriptions.
No. So again, it's the same thing as the mirage. So when we say, I see the ocean is just described as we have this experience and what best describes that experience. That's all it is. It's the same thing. The ocean could be real. It could be an objective thing that exists independent of our experience, or it could just be a mirage. But when we talk about the ocean, we're talking about that thing, whatever it is. And so I think it's a real thing, and I'm trying to describe the real properties in the ocean, not just our experience of the ocean. And if there are real properties in the ocean that we're not experiencing, then our experiences could be wrong. And so your criticism only applies if you assume that our perception is the thing itself, or that's all there is. And that's what we're trying to describe is just the perception, which I'm not. I'm not just trying to describe the perception. I'm trying to describe the ocean. I want to know about the thing itself, not just our perceptions of it.
Well, the thing itself is just, by this definition, whatever it is that produces those perceptions, right? Whether it's some.
Well, no, just to clarify.
Actual...
So if you think the ocean that you see is a mirage, the thing itself is again just a mirage. There is no thing itself. It isn't there. It's just a product of the brain. So I think it is a thing there, independent of the mind, independent of the experience. So I'm not just describing the experience. If you just think it's just part of the experience, then yes, all you're describing is the experience. But I'm not. I think there is a thing there independent of the experience that I'm trying to describe.
Yeah, but that's true even in the hallucinatory case, right? There's still something that's causing that experience, and that's what we're, by stipulation, picking out when we use the term, right?
Sure, yeah, your brain state.
Yeah, so suppose that, oh, my battery's about to die. Wait, give me 1 second. I'm just going to switch devices. Someone else can jump in, but I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, we'll wait for you, Detroyer. I think you and Tom seem to be engaged. So before Detroyer comes back, Tom, do you want to explain the objection that has been levied against your moral realism? Basically, the objection being that you kind of seem to ignore traditional prescriptive ethics.
We already did that. That was the part at the beginning where me and Detroyer were talking about. We have everyone who uses the term morality. Well, the criticism is that I'm redefining morality. You're talking about something different than what everyone else is talking about. So
yeah.
What everyone is talking about when they say morality is they have these feelings of morality.
Detroyer, are you back? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can go for a minute if you want.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I'll just answer CC's question. So the major criticism is that I'm redefining morality, and because I'm using the term differently than what most people use by it. That's not the case, because what I mean by morality is the exact same thing everyone else means by morality, which is those feelings. We have these feelings, and then we try to describe those feelings with the principle. Now, my principle is different than other people's principle, and I'm happy to grant that. But it isn't just redefining morality in like the Methodist case where I say morality is cheesecake. I'm still describing the same phenomenon, which is our feelings of morality. And so it's not a redefinition of morality. It's a redefinition of the principle that describes morality. And so if you presuppose that the principle entails normativity, which you can't do because it's not a Methodist position. We're talking about a particular kind of experience. Then it would be, but since it's not doing that, it's not a relevant criticism to my model.
Yeah, Detroyer.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear it.
Yeah, so let me just kind of go through the
Ocean
sort of
analogy.
dialectic again. So we have people have moral feelings, and there's certain commonalities between people's moral feelings, so that you could make generalizations as well. But what we mean by moral or morality is whatever principle or principles best describe those experiences, best account for those experiences that we have, right?
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep.
Well, at that point, what does it mean for a principle to better or worse? Okay, maybe that's grammatical. Not
That's fine.
grammatical.
That's fine.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
What does it mean for them to better describe those experiences? Well, if my experiences say that X is wrong, a better moral principle, all else equal, is going to be one which predicts that X is wrong, right? If that's
Well,
a
no,
sort of
so
general
I
feeling
want
that
to.
people have.
I'll just pick up there. So that is the correct question. The correct question is what does it mean to have a principle that best describes the morality? What does that mean? And there's two ways to address that. One is if the thing we're experiencing exists independent of our experience, then the correct way to describe it isn't to describe the feelings, it's to describe the thing that causes those feelings.
What do you mean the thing?
I think,
like, look, all we have is the experiences.
Right. So again,
we're debating which principles best describe those experiences.
Think of the ocean analogy. So we're all standing on a mountain and we see an ocean. We don't know if it's there. It could be a mirage. It could be a real thing. I think it's a real thing. So when I say I'm going to describe the ocean, I want to describe the thing itself, not our perception of it. I don't care about our perception of it. I want to describe the properties of the ocean itself, independent of our experience. Now, all we have is the experience. We haven't gone and touched the ocean, so we don't know if it's there. All we have is the experience. But I can say that in my hypothesis, the ocean has these properties, and our experience of it can be affected by some other thing that is not the ocean. And I want to rule those out. I want to get rid of those so that all we're describing is the ocean. I want to give the properties of the ocean, not the properties of our experience caused by some other non-ocean thing. And if that's my hypothesis, then it's perfectly reasonable to say the correct or the more accurate definition of the ocean could be disanalogous to our experience of the ocean. You see it as red, not because that's a property in the ocean, but because of the way the light reflects off of the heat around the ocean. And so that your property of redness, your subjective experience, is wrong. It's not the ocean. And now, of course, if you think morality, if there is no objective thing out there, then morality is just the experience or the principle that describes the experience. You say, no, you have to describe the I'm seeing the red. You need to describe the red because that's what morality is. It's the experience. But because I think it's an independent thing of the experience, then I can say, no, your experience is incorrect because I'm describing the objective thing that exists independent of the experience.
But by stipulation, the thing it's not independent of experiences entirely, right? Because look.
Well, I'm saying it is. So I'm saying, yeah, morality is completely independent of the experience. Our experience is just like seeing the ocean. The ocean exists whether we see it or not. Morality exists whether we see it or not. I'm saying morality is completely objective, independent of mind.
But this just now seems inconsistent to me because, this is where the analogy to the ocean breaks down, right? In the ocean case, we have this object here.
Yep.
But what's the analogous object in the morality case? You want to say morality?
Well, no.
Itself,
so in the
right?
analogy, we don't know if there's an ocean there or not. So in this case, we're standing on a mountain 1,000 miles away or whatever. We don't know if there's an ocean there. We're hypothesizing. There's a couple possibilities. One, it's a mirage. One, it's a real ocean. And we're trying to decide between the two hypotheses. So but
we're supposing there's this objective thing, the ocean out there.
No, we're not. We are not doing that. We're saying we see a thing. Like if we're in a desert on a mountain, we can see an ocean in the distance and there is no ocean there. It's just a mirage. That's a possibility. So we're not presupposing there's an ocean there. We're saying we have an experience of the ocean, just like we have an experience of morality. So we don't know if it's actually there or not. That's things we're trying to hypothesize about. So the analogy is we have
in our moral. Well, but in our moral experiences, like the things we say, when you have the thought that X is wrong, what is the thing that we think we're experiencing? It's just a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
just like
attitude we have.
Just like when we're saying the ocean, what we're talking about is literally our experience that we see something in our eyes. We're clearly not talking about we don't know if there is literally a thing there or not. It could just be a mirage. If you use the word
But what's-
mirage, like that is a mirage, you're assuming that it's just a thing in your head. If I say no, that is an ocean, then I'm assuming it's a thing that it actually exists. Those are two different hypotheses to explain the same phenomenon, which is just a sense experience. So there's a sense experience of morality, and there's two hypotheses. One is it's purely just subjective evolution or whatever, and another hypothesis it's a real thing. And you could refer to those differently, but they're both explaining the same phenomenon, just like the ocean and mirage is explaining the same phenomenon.
But I don't understand what the real thing would be, because I thought in your system it's just like, okay, we have all these various moral feelings, right? That X is wrong and P is right, whatever, and the objective moral principle or principles is just that or those which best describe those feelings that we have, and that's it, right? Why do you have to posit some other object or thing that our experiences are about?
You don't have to.
At?
I just do because I think it's a better theory. But so have we agreed up until that point? So the analogy is that morality and the ocean are the same. We're all standing on a mountain far away. We see an experience, and what this word that we're using, ocean and morality, describes that experience, that sense experience or intuition experience, whatever it is.
Well, okay. So if you want to say that the word, when we use morality, we're picking out the individual experiences. No, but I thought we wanted to be.
Yeah. So we have an experience, and then I think my experience of the ocean is a mirage. I think it doesn't exist. So when I refer to the mirage, I'm referring to that experience clearly. And when somebody else says I think it's an ocean, they're referring to the exact same experience. Right? You agree with that part?
Well, the thing. I mean, I don't want to really get into perception here.
This is. I'm trying to show that the analogies are the same. So when I refer to morality as a non-normative thing, and you refer to morality as a normative thing, it's like one person referring to the sense experience as a mirage, and another person referring to the sense experience as an ocean. They're still referring to the same thing. It's the sense experience.
Well, no, I mean. But the disagreement is not over what the qualities of the sense experience are. The disagreement is over what
best describes
what exists out there in the world, or what
yes.
might be causing those sense experiences.
Yes.
But all the same, it's the same experiences.
Yes.
That's not the disagreement.
Yep.
Okay.
So then I would go into why I think it's a real ocean and why someone else thinks it's a normative, subjective thing or whatever. And that would be our disagreement. But as long as you understand the direction I'm going in, that's fine. Like you can disagree that it's a real ocean. That's fine. As long as you understand the point of the argument.
Yeah. So the analogy would be, well, the ocean, the objective ocean thing is whatever it is that best describes these sense experiences that we have. And maybe the thing that best explains them or describes them is there being a body of water that is like an ocean, right?
Well, so I think that's where the disconnect is. So when I'm talking about morality, I'm not just talking about the sense experience. I think the sense experience is irrelevant. I don't care about the feelings. I want to talk about the thing. I think the thing is what I'm talking about with morality. I think it's a real thing, independent of our experience. Our experiences don't matter. They're just interpretations of the
there's
thing.
Experiences, there's a principle which best describes them, and then there's also the thing. Is that something in addition to those?
Well, no, because again, when we're talking about morality, some people could just be talking about the experiences because they think that's all it is, like a mirage. Some people could be saying that morality is a thing, like gravity is a thing. It's not just a subjective experience. I'm not talking about what I see when something falls. I'm talking about the thing itself falling. I think it is an objective feature of the world, and my sense experience of it is just describing that feature. So I don't care about my sense experience. I want to describe the thing itself. So in these two models, like when I talk about morality, I'm talking about the thing itself. Now, obviously, I'm starting from my sense experience and then trying to create a principle that describes what is causing that. But then I'm trying to further describe the thing itself, independent of our experience. And that's what I'm calling morality. I'm saying morality is the thing itself, not just our experience of it. Our experience of it is just like our eyes seeing the mirage. I don't care about that.
Yeah, but I thought it was that the thing itself just is the best principle that describes
no. The principle is, again, a theory. It's just a theory. So that's my theory of what morality is, and that's someone else's theory of what morality is. And then what best explains it is the one that most corresponds to reality. So if I say there's a real ocean there, and there's a real ocean there, then that best describes morality. If you think that if there isn't an ocean there,
but let's not put it in the analogy. Like, what is the thing itself?
Higher order emergent property like fitness. Right? That's what I think morality is. It's a higher order emergent property like fitness.
Okay, but can you describe it in any other way? Because it's not the principle, it's not the feelings.
Yeah, the principle describes the higher order emergent property. So like there is a field named gravity, and we have a principle that stuff falls, and that principle describes the field. So our principle of involuntary imposition of will describes the effect of the higher order emergent property.
I mean, at this point, whatever the property is supposed to be seems a bit mysterious to me. I kind of understood the point up until
fitness is a
principle.
higher order emergent property. You know, fitness is the fact that organisms survive in more environments or whatever. That is a higher order emergent property. It is a real thing that exists in the world, independent of our opinions. Morality is like that.
Sure.
It's not the same as fitness.
Yeah, but can we give a description of it like you just did with fitness? Because it's not.
Yeah, so fitness is the fact that organisms survive more in environment. Morality is the fact that agents have less imposition of will in environment. Or what was it? I say that fitness describes how an environment interacts with an organism and how it can survive. Morality describes how agents can interact in an environment and how they interact.
So, but here you're just talking about types of events, right? Like
same as fitness.
Say
so fitness
actions which impose on wills, or yeah, sure, that's fine. So, obviously those occur, but I mean, I don't know what that has to do with the ocean analogy. The objective thing is not just like the stuff occurring in the world, like people imposing on wills or not imposing on wills.
So it's like fitness.
The objective thing is the principle about what counts as moral or immoral.
The principle describes the objective thing. The principle is just a principle. So like stuff falls. Obviously. Gravity isn't the principle that stuff falls. Gravity is the thing that causes the stuff to fall. The principle isn't morality. The principle just describes morality, in my view.
I thought it was that whatever was the best account of these moral feelings that we have, just is what we're picking out.
And if there is an objective thing that's causing these feelings, then the best account, what makes it the best, is whether it corresponds to reality. And so if there is an objective thing, the best account is one that describes the objective thing.
So the objective thing is particular impositions of will and stuff like that?
No, it's a emergent property. So like the particular thing in fitness isn't an animal surviving in an environment. The particular fitness itself is the relationship between organisms and environments. The particular thing in morality is the relationship between agents in environments.
Right. So it's going to be, I don't know, some interactions involving impositions of will and stuff like that, but it's still...
right, just like fitness, there's interactions between the organism and the environments, for sure.
Right.
I'm not seeing how try to apply your question to fitness and see if you can show how the answer wouldn't apply in the exact same way.
Sure. Let's think of an analog to fitness here. Like, okay, I guess we could say, what do we mean by fit or unfit?
The ability to survive in more environments, essentially.
No. But like, suppose it was defined in the same way that you're approaching morality with. We have these feelings of fitness.
Okay, so let me try to do that. Let me try to do that. So,
someone judges X as fit. Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, we see this experience that some animals survive in more environments than other animals, and we try to describe that phenomenon as fitness. So we say that phenomenon that some animals survive in more environments than others is the fitness property, the higher order emergent fitness property. And so it's like the ocean, and there is a thing there. Maybe we're just wrong. Maybe they don't actually survive. It could just be an illusion in our minds. So, but we're just trying to describe this experience we have, that it seems like some things survive in more environments than others. And if that is a real thing in the world, then maybe there's some physical property within the animals and that relates to the environment in some way, and that would cause them to survive in more environments than others because of their relationship. And maybe it's just our delusion. Maybe there isn't one at all. And so if I think it's a real thing, I would say that if our perception is correct, then we could actually get the perception wrong. We could think that humans are more fit when really bacteria are more fit. So we have this intuition that humans are the most fit thing. Now, bacteria are the most fit thing. So our intuitions are actually wrong. Our perception that it's more fit is actually wrong because there's this objective way to measure fitness, independent of our experience of fitness. And it says that, no, our intuitions that humans are fit are wrong and that bacteria are really the most fit thing. And so the analogy seems to fit one-to-one correlation there.
But in this case, it seems to me that you're now providing criteria which are in addition to how the term was initially defined, right? So let me put it this way: if by look, we started with particular fitness feelings, right? Judgments, right? Oh, I judge.
It seems like that animal survives
X is fit,
more.
Y is sure. Well, but that's a little bit different, right? I'm judging X is fit, Y is unfit, and so on and so on. So judgments like that. Those are supposed to be analogous to the X is moral, Y is immoral.
Yeah. So we see this animal survives more. I'm going to call that fit. This animal survives less. I'm going to call that unfit.
Right, and then we say, okay, what kind of principles best describe those judgments that we have? And
so we start off with that animal seems more fit because it's smarter and it's stronger and it's faster. So that animal's more fit, and that animal's less fit because it's dumber and it's weaker and it's smaller.
Right. So when we construct a principle, whatever the best principle for fitness, given those feelings that we have might be, it's going to be something that, it's going to be something that's involving intelligence, but perhaps we could talk about suitability to environments and so on.
Yeah.
Like
so that's the point I'm bringing up. So we initially come
Right.
up with this definition of fitness. I have this intuition that fitness is smartness. The smarter you are, the fitter you are. And then there's this other guy who says, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's about intelligence. I think it's about survivability. And so fitness is really the survivability. And he says, so we're not the most fit thing. Bacteria are the most fit thing. And the other guy's like, that's dumb. Smartness is fitness. When I talk about fitness, I'm talking about smartness. So clearly bacteria who don't have brains, they can't be fit. Only the intelligent things can be fit. And then the guy's like, I don't think that's the correct definition of fitness. I think there is this objective thing in the world, which fitness refers to, which is the survivability metric. And that's the correct definition of fitness, and yours is wrong. And we're not more fit because we're going to die a lot quicker than those things are.
Yeah, but the person who says survivability or whatever is the correct definition. If he is right just because that definition better accounts for the feelings that we have.
No,
the feeling of
again, because the feelings don't matter.
That's how it was defined at the beginning.
No, again, because that's just our intuition. We have a feeling that there's this phenomenon, and we're trying to describe the phenomenon. What best describes the phenomenon is what most accurately occurs to the phenomenon, not the feelings. The feelings don't make a damn difference. No one gives a damn about the feelings. If we never existed, it's still there, and we want to know what principle would describe it if we never existed. That's the more accurate principle.
The phenomenon was defined in terms of the feelings.
Literally every phenomenon we experience has to come through our senses. So we have to start every phenomenon from the perspective of our feelings every time, no matter what. But if we want to say what's the best definition of that, we have to say what definition would still be true if there were never any experiences. That's what we want.
Yeah, but you can give that with the principle of fitness. It's just that how we come to this particular principle was based on the experiences that we have. That was just by stipulation at the beginning. I have to go in a couple minutes, but I mean,
how we come to every principle is through experience. That's always true, but our experiences are usually wrong. So when we're talking about what's the best explanation, it's the one that's right, independent of our experience.
It's not just that we come to it through experiences. In this case, and in the morality case, I mean, not that we typically define either in this way, but just for the sake of argument, we are. Fitness was defined in terms of, so fitness is whatever best accounts for the various fitness intuitions we have, and morality is defined as just whatever best accounts for the various.
No, I think this is where you keep getting confused. The definitions don't matter. The words don't matter. It's not about what best accounts for the definition. It's what the definition refers to in reality. And so if
that's how we fix the reference, though.
No. So I think that was your misconception in the beginning. So no one cares about definitions. No one cares about our experiences. That's all garbage. What we care about is if there is a real thing to which these things refer to independent of our experience. That's what objective means. So no, we're not just trying to describe the experience. That's stupid. No one gives a damn about that. What we want to know is if there a thing independent of those experiences that it refers to.
Yeah, but there is. That was the point. We do get to something that exists independent of those experiences.
Yep.
That's the correct moral principle.
Yep.
But the way you arrive at what fixes the correct moral principle is going to be certain facts about the moral intuitions that we have, right? It's the best principle that best explains those intuitions. That's how the conversation started.
That's how we experience it. So again, there's two hypotheses. One is that the experiences themselves are the full extent of morality. There is nothing beyond that, just our experiences. In which case, whatever principle best describes our experiences would best describe morality. If morality is a thing independent of our experiences, then our experiences don't accurately describe morality. So we're not looking for a principle that describes our experiences. We're looking for a principle that describes the thing that's true independent of our experiences, which means our experiences are wrong, and we need something that tells us which ones are right and which ones are wrong.
So a few things then. That just seems inconsistent with where we started, right? Because I remember asking,
I think you were
you
just
said
misunderstood when we started, because the same thing applies to everything I've said the entire time. It was never about describing the principle. The principle is just our experience, which may or may not be true. And then we need some way to figure out, are they true? Which ones are true? Is it just the experience? All that stuff comes later. We start with an experience, and then we come up with principles to describe the experience. Some of those would include many of our experiences are wrong because our experiences are caused by some external thing independent of our experience. They're just two different hypotheses. The correct hypothesis is not the one that just describes our experience the best. No, that is just one of the interpretations of what morality is. There are others where morality is something independent of our experience, and so we don't want to describe the experience because that would be stupid.
Right. So if we're defining morality in this way, I feel like most of the conversation is moot, but I just want to be clear. Maybe someone else can correct me. Remember earlier on in the discussion, you were saying like, well, we have these moral experiences. And first you said something like, well, whatever causes them, that's what we mean by morality. And then we said, no, it's not really necessarily causes. It could be more precisely maybe things that best accounts for or best describes them. That's what we mean by morality. That's what we're picking out. Well, then I said, okay, well, and then you think whatever best describes them or accounts for them is this principle, involuntary imposition of will. And then we moved from there, right? The principle is just, that's what morality is. I think
it
best describes the moral feelings that we have.
So like if we're saying what is God, God is, to atheists, God is just a mental thing in our brain, and to theists, God is an existing thing independent of our mind. But if we want to say, well, what best defines God? I mean, obviously we're not just saying what we define it to be, because atheists define it to be a thing in their head. Theists define it to be a thing independent of their world. So if we're saying that the best definition of God is one that accurately defines our ideas of God, well, no, that would be wrong. Theists would say that's completely wrong. Like, no, our ideas of God are completely wrong. We don't want to define God based off of our experience or thoughts of him. We want to define God based off what most closely resembles the thing independent of our minds. So obviously you would not say that the best definition of God is one that most accurately explains our thoughts. Like, no, we don't want that. Theists would say that's completely wrong.
I agree.
So I'm saying the same thing, is that the best definition of morality, because it's like a God, it's a thing out there, isn't just our experience of it. Our experience of it is how we sense it or how we perceive it or conceptualize it. But when we're talking about morality itself, it's not those things. We don't want a description of those things, our feelings. We want a description of the underlying nature of what those feelings cohere to or correspond to in reality, if there is such a thing.
I thought that's what we were supposed to get to with the account or description of them. But wait, on atheism, I disagree. I mean, it's kind of off on a tangent, but I don't think that theists and atheists disagree largely about what God is. It's just that they have a similar concept in mind, assuming that they're not talking past each other. It's just that atheists don't think it refer. They think that there is no such thing in the world.
Right.
It's not like they're not just picking out something in the brain.
No, that wasn't the analogy I was going for. That was just a short term to get to the point. So the point here is that how do we best define the term God? Like, what is it? What is the best definition of the term God? Like, what is the best definition of the term morality? If the best definition of the term God refers to just our brain states, the thing that we all agree upon, like the definition, that's the definition. Theists would say that's wrong. Like, no, we should not be defining God based off of how our conceptions of it. Thomists specifically,
I think atheists would agree. Yeah.
Thomists specifically say, like, no, our conceptions have are analogous at best, but they're all wrong because we can't even come close to conceiving of God's true nature. So we would say that, no, we should not be defining the term God based off of our conceptions. That's just an analogy to the thing itself. And I'm doing the same thing with morality. I'm saying, no, we should not define morality based off of our conceptions.
Right, but
That's
there's
just
an ambiguity here. I mean, there's an ambiguity here. Like, obviously, when we define God, right, we're doing so conceptually. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
what else? What other resources
Yeah.
do we have? But it's not. But we're not. What we're not doing is saying that what God could be, according to our conception, is something merely conceptual, because that's obviously false. Theists will disagree with that.
right.
But that doesn't mean that when we define God, it's not a conceptual matter.
Sure. I mean, I'm agreeing there. So, but the point here is that if we apply the same thing to morality, so if we define what is the best definition of God, well, is it the definition that best describes our conceptions, or is if there was a definition that more accurately described God's that we couldn't conceive of, would that be a better definition than the one we conceive of?
Probably the best definition is going to be the one that best accords with our conceptions of God, right?
Okay, let me clarify.
Like, look, if we
So we have conceptions of God which are wrong. We can't conceive of God given Thomism, assuming God exists. We assume God exists for the sake of the argument. Our conceptions of God are nowhere near God itself. And then suppose there is some super language that we haven't discovered yet that is really an accurate description of God. Now, as far as I see it, the one that accurately coheres to the nature of God is a better description than the one that we can conceive of. The one we conceive of is just a vague similarities. It's not the better description. The better description is the bigger one that we can't conceive of yet. I mean, would you disagree
Sure,
with that?
you can have a more complete description, I'm sure, but presumably we think that whatever description we have is going to be enough to pick out the reference.
Right, and so they could say that in that complete description that we haven't discovered yet, our personal description is wrong. There's some things in there that we got wrong, that we don't really understand.
But that doesn't work then. How could it be wrong, yet still be talking about the same thing?
That's a mirage, that's an ocean. One of them is wrong.
Right, but okay, but
so it's like if I said that's a red thing. I see a red thing and I see a blue thing. One of them is wrong, but one of them could just be seeing a mirage.
Let's I want to use the Thomas God case, right?
Okay.
You want to say something like we could have this definition or like we could try to conceive of God, but I don't know, we're limited in certain ways and can't really conceive of it. If we're wrong in the way I'm not sure what it means for us to be wrong in the way we're conceiving. We're just talking about something else then, or maybe nothing at all.
Well, no, we can have some properties correct and some other properties that are incorrect.
Right, but in order to be talking about the same thing, we have to have enough properties in order to uniquely pick out that thing.
No, we only have to have one. So we can say, whatever created the universe that is conscious is God. No, I think God is Jesus created Yahweh God. Yeah, who has omni God. And this person says, no, I think God is Vishnu, and Vishnu is whatever. And I think God is just an imaginary thing that doesn't exist. Like, we're all talking about the same thing because it shares this one property, which is that it creates the universe and it's conscious. So as long as it shares those minimum properties, then we're talking about the same thing, even if we got all the other properties wrong. So we can get
right. So what we can do is, to fix the reference, we're saying, like, whatever is the cause of the universe to exist and to mind, whatever. And then someone might also assert, truly or otherwise, that whatever it is that picks out has some other property, right? You know, as you're saying. But
so there's some
insofar as we're just talking about the thing that caused the universe, we're talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah. So there's some core set of properties, and as long as you explain that core set of properties, you have an explanation of the definition, and whatever most accurately that definition corresponds to in reality, that's the best definition. So if Vishnu's the God, then their definition is the best. If Yahweh is the God, their definition is the best. If there isn't a conscious being that created the universe, the atheist definition is the best. So the same thing applies to morality. So there's this core principle of morality. We have these feelings. They're the feelings. Whatever explains those feelings, those are all. We're all talking about the same thing. Those feelings, not the principle. Right. The principle is what describes the feelings. So when we talk about morality, just like when we're talking about God, the core principle in morality is those feelings. That's the minimum requirement, the necessity of explaining morality. Anything addition to that are all external facts that we don't know about yet. So like God is Trinity, like that's an external fact. You don't need that to explain a God. All you need is created the universe and conscious. So in morality, all you need is the feelings. So I explained the feelings.
But I thought morality was not the feelings themselves, but whatever.
No, morality is. No, it's not whatever describes them. Morality is whatever is I would say causing them like I did originally. Like if there is a thing that is causing those feelings or that those feelings refer to in reality, that thing is morality, not the feelings. The principles are just our vague way to try and describe that thing. Just like our definitions of God are our vague way to try to describe God.
All right, but now if we're moving back from describing the feelings to just whatever causes them,
that's what they refer to.
What,
so
when people states, like it seems...
when people say morality, what they mean by that is their theory of what accounts for the feelings. So the word morality refers to
vague now.
Well, it's supposed to be. It's whatever any individual thinks accounts for those feelings is what they think morality is. So if you think it's a God, you think morality refers to a God. If you think it's an evolutionary process, you think morality refers to an evolutionary process. The word morality, as the way people use it, is whatever their theory is to account for those feelings. The minimum requirement is the feelings. Any theory that accounts for those feelings is a moral theory.
By vague there, I don't just mean that there's several things that could satisfy it. I'm not even sure what you're saying by account for. Is it a causal explanation?
Either one.
Is it something else? Like, what is it, the accounting?
So again, it could be anything you want it to be. Like, it doesn't make a difference. Like, whatever your theory is that however you define accounts for. Like, if you think it accounts for it because there is some God that causes it, or if you think it accounts for it because there's a Platonic object, or you think it accounts for it because it's some subjective evolutionary basis. Like, you can use account in whatever way you want in your theory. It's supposed to be subjective in that context. Whatever way you define accounts for is what you mean by morality. So the word morality, the way people use it, is whatever their theory is and however it accounts for what those feelings are.
But you have this notion of account in mind, right?
Well, I'm just using your term. I don't.
We could mean anything by account.
Well, I'm just using your term here. So it's whatever people mean when they say that word. So if it's a God, they mean it literally. It's the nature of God is what accounts for morality. If they think it's an emergent property, it's an emergent property that accounts for morality. If they think there isn't a morality, then it's a mirage that accounts for morality. Like, account could mean anything you want it to mean.
But it can't just mean anything.
Well, yeah,
like, it can't mean juggles by account, right? Yeah. Like, look, you have to. We have to have something at least a little bit informative in mind when we use the term.
I'm not sure why this is an issue here. So,
look, when we say that, let's just grant for sake of argument that when people use these moral terms, by morality they just mean whatever quote unquote accounts for their moral feelings and intuitions.
Well, so to clarify,
there has to mean something.
So it's not that they mean whatever accounts for the feelings. They think something specific accounts for the feelings, and whatever they think that thing is what they mean by morality. So they think there is this thing, and that causes morality. Right? It is the grounds of morality. It is the definition of morality. There is some relation between this theory they have and the essence of morality, and that's what they mean by morality. They mean their personal theory to account or to the essence of those feelings.
Oh, but that doesn't work.
What do you mean?
Because if all they mean is if what everyone means is just whatever they think morality, like if by morality they think it refers to what they happen to think accounts for those things, then people who think differently about those things will just talk past each other. Since they
like people who think it's a God. Morality. Yes,
it's going to be disanalogous to the God case.
No, it's not. It's exactly the same as the God case. So they think that they have this feeling.
No, because there's no common notion.
Yes, there is. There is still a common notion there. They have this feeling that it's wrong to kill babies. That is the common notion. I have a feeling it's wrong to kill babies. You have a feeling it's wrong to kill babies. I think the essence of that feeling is grounded in a God. Now, I think, well, what you mean by morality is clearly not the same as what I mean by morality, because your theory of what accounts or is the essence of that feeling is completely different from mine. But there is a common factor, which is the feelings. We still have the feelings. That's the common factor. We're still referring to the same feelings.
Yeah, but the thing we're referring to, morality, is not just the feelings. And the point I was making is that there's nothing common in this model now.
No, again, it is. It literally is. Every single, no matter what, in every case, the commonality is always going to be the feelings. Now, what you mean by morality is a combination of the feelings plus your theory. The word morality entails those two parts. The feelings and your combination of the feeling, or your theory of the feelings. So obviously when people use morality, there's
no difference.
What?
Like if what I mean by morality is the feelings I'm having plus my theory of morality, whatever, or my theory of those feelings,
which is
then
God.
Unless you don't have the same theory in mind, will mean something different by morality, and we'll just talk past each other.
Yeah, obviously, literally when Christians mean morality, they mean something different than when a secular person means morality, clearly. But they are still referring to the common feature, which is the feelings. There is still a common feature there, even inside of the definition, which isn't the full definition. Like, all roses are flowers, not all flowers are roses. All morality entails the feelings, not all morality entails the God.
That's fine, right?
So that's what I mean by the common feature.
Right, but it's not going to be. Do you see the disanalogy between the common feature and the God case in this
any
case?
disanalogy at all. This is literally analogous. So all roses are flowers, not all flowers are roses. Whenever we're talking about flowers, there's always going to be a commonality, which is roses. We all agree roses are flowers. So when everyone talks about flowers, they're talking about a rose. But even if they disagree, that grass are flowers, they think a plum tree is a flower or whatever. Like, I don't think a plum tree is a flower.
Here's the disanalogy. And
go for it.
Fine. Here's a disanalogy. In the God case, what we're doing to fix the referent of the term God is having the description, I don't know, is the creator of this universe, something like that. And then you can assert other things that you might think about, whatever it is that satisfies that, that it's, omniscient, whatever. In this
I think
case,
we're mixing analogies here. So, in the case of...
Well, let me just finish.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So in the case of morality, the God has nothing to do with the creator of the universe. It's just
right. No, I know. I was just talking about the case where we're just talking about God, and then I was going to draw the disanalogy with that to the moral case.
Okay.
And then the point was in the moral case. Well, how are we fixing the referent of moral? Well, if I'm fixing the referent by, but not just the feelings, right? When I use moral, I'm referring to my feelings and also my theory, right? That's what you said.
Right. So some people fix flowers to plum trees. I think all flowers include plum trees, and I think, well, no. So if there's one person that says flowers include plum trees and roses necessarily, they have to include both. And I think, no, a plum tree isn't a flower. Roses are flowers, plum trees aren't flowers. Now, if we look at all of those different models, those two different models, they both include a common factor, which is flowers. The roses. So since they both include roses, that's the common factor. That's what you need to have a inclusion of flowers in this case, because the roses are the things we all agree are flowers. So as long as it includes those,
the point is that to have a substantive dispute there, right, about which things count as flowers and which don't, you have to have a common notion and a common way of defining what counts as a flower, right?
Particularism. So we're starting with we're starting with the particular flower. So if everyone agrees roses are flowers, not everyone agrees plum trees are flowers. To have a theory of flowers, you need to include roses. You don't need to include plum trees. The roses is the common factor, because we're starting with particularism here, not Methodism. We're starting with a particular thing.
Right. But then once we generate that's just going to explain how we come to the concepts that we have.
Well, it explains the concept itself. So the concept of flower must include roses. That is a necessity. So if we're talking about flowers, we must be talking about roses necessarily. So that's the common feature in any definition of flowers. So if we're talking about morality, we must be talking about the feelings necessarily, just like we must be talking about roses when we're talking about flowers.
Right. But morality isn't just those things which a certain set of feelings.
No, that's what's required in any model of morality. Then every different model has different other things they add in, but no one cares. Like, your definition of flowers may include plum trees. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference how you define flowers there. It makes no difference at all.
Look, it's not going to be enough to... I could have sworn you said, well, when I use the term morality, what I mean by it, or what anyone means by it, is going to be the feelings plus some theory they have in mind.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
Okay. Are you trying to say that the theory they have in mind is not really essential to their concept? And so we have the same concept so long as we have the feelings in mind.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, would you disagree with that assessment?
Well, not really, because it's not really clear what morality is then.
Well,
right?
yeah, we don't know what it
'Cause I
is.
thought-
That's kind of the
At first,
point.
I thought it was going to be the principle, right? Because that's the thing that accounts for them. And then now it seems like it's some. Then it seemed like it was some combination of the feelings and the principles, or something like that.
Yeah. So we use the word
And
morality.
now it seems like it's really just the feelings.
So again, we don't know what it is. That's the point. It's a phenomenon, and we're trying to explain the phenomenon. We don't get to say what morality is before we like prove it one way or the other. So we have a phenomenon,
Okay,
which
but
is our feelings.
how are we then referring
Tofi,
to?
You have a hot mic. Mute your mic.
Why did you? I'm leaving your shitty server.
Probably some troll. Yeah, go ahead.
How are we referring to moral? Like, what is the descriptions, or what is the way we refer to it?
So again, essentially, the way everyone refers to morality is they have the feelings and a theory of those feelings, and they combine those two, and the word moral refers to the combination of those two things. And the combination is always different. Like people think God is the grounds of morality. People think evolution is the grounds of morality. So the combination is always going to be different. But all of the different theories all entail one thing necessarily, which is the feelings. That is the one common factor in every theory of morality. So in order to have a theory of morality, you must at minimum have those things and explained in some way.
Wait, does
Yeah, but this runs into the same problem I was saying before. Like, let me give an analogy. Suppose I had the term I don't know, doof, right? And when I use the term doof, I mean rocks and swimming. Okay, and when someone else says the word doof, they mean rocks and running, and someone else says the word doof, they mean rocks and something else. Right. I mean, it's going to be true that what's common to all of our definitions is rocks.
Yep.
Right. But rocks is not going to be enough to pick out. Is not like the common notion there. We just have different concepts in mind.
Right. So
right?
One of them could be right and the others could be wrong, and the right one is the one that is the true doof. So like if doof and swimming, or if rocks and swimming are really the true doof, like if there's a thing in reality, like a law that's written on the universe, a law of doof, that is the rocks and swimming are the doof thing. Clearly just rocks are not doofs. Rock is not sufficient to be doof. You need both. But in order to have a theory of doof, because we don't know what the universal law is, it's just a question mark right now. You need to have at least rocks, and then probably some other things too. But in order to have a theory of doof, you got to have rocks plus question mark. Just anything else, you have a theory of doof. We're all talking about doof because you got a theory of rocks plus something that's doof. You just don't know which one's right.
I think I'm a little bit. Maybe we just have there's some deeper issue here that I think maybe would explain some of the disagreement or misunderstanding, because I'm not sure what it means for there to be a correct theory of doof, right?
Well,
if
right,
we have
that's
different
like
concepts, why would someone's be right and someone's wrong?
If it corresponds to something independent of minds, then one is right and one is wrong. That's the theory.
But they can equally correspond to something independent of minds. Why would that mean? Obviously, rocks and swimming correspond to something, and rocks and running does. Which one makes the correct theory of doof?
So like if there's a law of nature that says there's like literally like a god, suppose there is a god that says, I God define doof as rocks and running, and he just hasn't told us yet. And it's written in the laws of nature that doof is really rocks and running. That's the only correct definition. All other definitions are incorrect at that point. So there's some fact.
So you're saying
nature,
that like there's a law of nature or some being which can create true linguistic facts?
It's hypothetical, so there's like some hypothetical universe in which this is the case. Then one would be right and the others would be wrong. Or if he said my definition of sun is an object made of helium and hydrogen, and somebody else's definition of sun is made of green pixies, one is right, one is wrong. So if there is something in nature to which the definition corresponds to, then one is right and one is wrong.
But the point was that both of them.
Not in the case where those green pixies are made up of helium and hydrogen also.
And also, I don't understand why, even if one of them doesn't correspond to something in reality, what does it mean for the concept to be wrong? It's just
truth is that which corresponds to reality. So if there is something, if one of the definitions is true in the fact that it corresponds to reality more so than the others are wrong.
No, but the definition is not the proposition, right? It's just We're just describing our terms. It's
right. The proposition is does this definition correspond to reality?
I don't know. Definitions are not propositional. I don't know what it means for them. Anyways, I've been on longer than I should. I need to make dinner if someone wants to. It's been a good conversation.
Yep.
I think overall.
So I'll just.
I really have to go. Thanks.
Yep. Just put in one thing. Like
right,
the definition of star being an object made of helium hydrum. Yeah, that the definition that we came up with corresponds to some fact of reality. So definitions can correspond to facts about reality. They don't necessarily need to. Like definition of Captain Kirk.
Only based on other definitions, correct?
No.
Oh, really?
Yes. Like my definition of a star being made of hydrogen and helium is obviously contingent on the definitions of hydrogen and helium.
That's what I just said, and you disagreed.
But those definitions are contingent on a thing in the universe. So it's not just definitions on definitions. The definitions have to correspond to something. They're not true in reference to other definitions. They're true in reference to reality, which is not a definition.
They correspond to other definitions.
No, they correspond to reality. That's what truth is, not correspond to definitions.
You're just pointing out that definitions are based on things in reality.
Truth is that which corresponds to reality, not that which corresponds to definitions.
TJump. So TJump. Basically, the last 5 minutes will be sort of quick questions that people had for you about philosophy, and then we'll wrap it up. So thank you.
Sure.
So yeah. So the first question. These are trivia questions. What's basically philosophy questions? Content internalism or content externalism?
No idea. Like, what is content internalism versus content externalism?
Okay, so content internalism is the view that content externalism is the view that the external world, at least in part, constitutes our thoughts, and content internalism is the view that the content of our thoughts is fully internal to us. So one way to think about it would be something like, would you still be able to have thoughts if there was no external world? Internalists say yes, externalists say no.
Like, for example, if I had a brain, but there was literally nothing other than my brain that existed, would I be able to have thoughts? Is that the question?
Yeah, if there was no external world, could you still have thoughts?
Well, yeah, the question here is what you mean by external world. So, like, if essence of thoughts, like I say, dualism or idealism is true, and there's just essence of thoughts and nothing but essence of thoughts, yeah, that's logically possible, for sure.
Right, good. Yeah, another question. Stance on idealism?
Same thing as before. I don't think it's correct. I don't think there's any evidence to support it. It's just a imagined hypothesis based off of arguments with no independent way to verify that it's correct.
Right. And free will, determinism, compatibilism, incompatibilism.
Compatibilism is a kind of determinism, so they're both determinism, but I go with compatibilism just because it's the consensus, even though I think it's stupid.
Oh, so you still go with compatibilism?
Yep, it's the consensus. I think it's stupid, but it's the consensus, so I accept it.
All right.
I like that answer.
Yeah, I guess that was funny. Yeah, and question, stance on monism. Do you completely reject monism, or do you still have sympathies towards it as a naturalist?
Monism isn't like just only one essence of physical stuff?
Yeah, so basically materialist would be monist.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't see a problem. I don't adopt strong monism, so I'd say it's possible there's a dualistic thing. There's no logical contradiction there for sure. I just don't think there's any evidence for it.
Eddie, 1 second. So there was actually a debate, question as to whether or not you were some kind of dualist.
No. Like I take a methodological approach, so I think the only evidence is that there is material stuff. So the only evidence is for material monism. I don't think it's possible there's dualistic stuff, but there's no reason to believe it, just like there's no reason to believe in a god.
Right. I don't even know what dualism is. Nonsense.
Yeah, and somebody told you, do you have a view on like quantum mechanics in general? Primarily those you don't accept quantum mechanics in general?
No, I accept it. I accept it. I think that the consensus is that randomness is a true fundamental part of reality. It's not determined and unknown. It's literally a fundamental thing. I think that's stupid, but it's the consensus, so I accept it because I accept the physicists no more than I do.
All right. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, I guess. Thanks so much, TJump, for coming, and take care, and hope to see you next time, okay?
Yep, thanks, CC. Good talking with you guys.